Chapter 607, Yong Chang's Supreme Talents. All the disciples of the three major Yong Chang immortal sects gathered around in the contest arena at this time. As a rare once-in-millennium event, every disciple was present. Even those average disciples who had not advanced to Inborn were looking for a spot to observe the battle between top-notch Yong Chang talents. Hundreds of thousands of disciples from three major immortal sects looked at that middle-aged man in the middle of the stage. All of them were discussing in astonishment. His name was Roving Sword, the scary genius of swordsmanship from Immortal Slaying Sect. Roving Sword was categorized as middle-aged in the real world, but a young man in Yong Chang. Seeing that he defeated Yonglin, third-ranked in Yong Chang Immortal Sect, all the disciples were in disbelief. Yong Chang Immortal Sect was the strongest sect among the three immortal sects. In terms of the numbers of immortals and supreme talents, it was almost better than Dahong and Immortal Slaying Sect. The fact that Roving Sword of Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat Yonglin, the supreme talent of Yong Chang, surprised everyone. You lost. Roving Sword, on the stage, remained aloof without any expressions on his face. Despite defeating the supreme talent of Yong Chang world, he remained as calm as a mill pond. As a golden swordfish, he did not have much emotion except for that related to becoming stronger and pledging his loyalty to the Dragon King. I lost. Yonglin looked awful. He wiped his neck that was being brushed by sword radiance and flew to one corner with a sullen face. Roving Sword turned around and flew to another place. Senior Brother Ao. As the disciples of Immortal Slaying Sect saw Roving Sword, they greeted him with awe. Roving Sword nodded coldly as though he was like a block of ice. I never expected Roving Sword to be so strong. Yonglin, didn't you say you could beat him? What a shame. In the other direction, Yonglin, with fiery red hair, landed on a small hill nearby. Over a dozen disciples sat on the mountain with tea on the side. Compared to other disciples who were standing around, watching, the place where these disciples were sitting seemed more relaxing. Didn't he knock you off from the top candidate list of cultivating disciples? Yonglin returned a cold bellow as he grimaced at a young man who had a sharp chin. He's still no match for me. The young man with a sharp profile spoke without any emotion. His golden palms were like metal. His strength could be ranked in the top 5 or 6. Hong Tianda commented impassively at the side. 5 or 6? I don't think so. As soon as Hong Tianda's voice trailed off, a Yong Chang Immortal Sect disciple curled his lips upwards and spoke with a smile. This guy is familiar, but he's too aloof. I don't like him. At this time, a female voice was heard as she observed with doubts. However, her strength was only at the inborn level. Since she was standing at a distance of 6 kilometers, she could not see clearly. Haha, Xiao, this fellow is even more aloof than Hong Tianda, ignoring everyone like a fool. He only has eyes for swordsmanship. A young man of Immortal Slaying Sect chuckled and replied to the girl. He's expressionless? Sounds familiar. Where have I seen this before? The girl murmured, with her eyes blinking non-stop. However, she could not recall anything, so she might as well cast this aside, and she tugged another girl by her arm with a smile. This time, my sister will top the chart. Senior Brother Gu Wan is number 1. Senior Brother Hong is number 2, and Senior Brother Bai is number 3. I'm at most number 4. The girl who was being hugged shook her head plainly. No, how can those guys fight with you? Unless they are not men. The girl laughed as she spoke. The surrounding crowd chuckled. Even though the girl was of inborn level, she was the youngest daughter of an immortal, the little princess of the entire Yong Chang world who received more doting than her sister. When the last day is here, I'll teach that Roving Sword a lesson. A young man of Immortal Slaying Sect held his level 12 spiritual sword with a face of coldness. The sudden appearance of this guy not only stole his limelight in Immortal Slaying Sect, but also gave him the cold shoulder many times, which embarrassed him. He was prepared to teach him a lesson. Haha, Jinjian. If you can beat him, you will be ranked number 5. By then, we won't have to compete with each other anymore. Upon hearing his words, A disciple of Yong, Chang, Immortal Sect smiled and commented, "Heh, then I won the 5th position." Jin Jian smiled confidently. "Among the disciples, you're only number 6. I'll fight with Gu 1 for number 2. At this time, Hong Tianda, sitting at the side, remarked once again. Her. Everyone around him froze for a moment as they looked at Hong Tianda with disbelief. "Senior brother Hong, don't tell me there's someone better than you and senior brother Gu 1? A young man was stunned and asked this with a smile. "Yes," Hong Tianda answered directly. Who? Who actually makes you feel inferior? All the supreme talents in Yongchang are here. Who is our opponent?" asked Gu Wan to Hong Tianda with his eyes narrowed. "You'll find out on the last day. Without much strength," he answered. Hong Tianda thought of a person who could easily defeat him in a single move. He was not convinced of Gu Wan, but he had to succumb to defeat by that demon-like figure. He touched the huge sword in his hand with self-understanding that he was still far from that demon-like figure. "Oh, then I will really want to take a look. At the same time, I will show you my strength." Gu Wen's lips curled up slightly with a pleasant look in his eyes. Ao Shuwen, at the side, remained quiet with glistening eyes. His mind was not here as he was thinking of the Dragon King. For half a month, over a dozen families searched the entire Yongchang world. Still, none of them retrieved any information on the Dragon King. This made them wonder. Yongchang world is not big. How can a person suddenly appear? But all these forces were not willing to give up and continued to look up. With that Dragon King around one day, the dozen forces would not have a day of peace. They must slay him. Besides, they needed to find out how he had managed to kill 15 budding realm experts. Buzz. At this time, Roving Sword was standing in front of the immortal slaying Sect disciples. A thing on his arm buzzed. He swung his arm and took out the positive-negative medal. Looking at the message on it, Roving Sword did not hesitate as he flitted towards Da Hong Immortal Sect. Some of the elders and attendants from Immortal Slaying Sect furrowed their brows slightly when they saw the departing Roving Sword. This disciple is extremely talented. He's very suitable for merciless swordsmanship, but he was simply ruthless. The sect leader said the merciless swordsmanship focused on attacks, but when one attains mastery of it, one can become truly merciless, disregarding and annihilating everything. Such a disciple might be hard to come across, but he was not easy to control. The sect leader also said he would be banned from entering Yongchang Cauldron this time. It's better to prohibit his entry. If he could advance to the immortal realm with merciless swordsmanship, I don't think that even the sect leader could command him. Chapter 608. Annihilate the Dragon Sect. Unification of the Underworld. Dragon King. Roving Sword approached and descended into Wang Xian's MT refining. When Wang Xian saw Roving Sword, he revealed a smile. "How many more days are left until the grand contest of Yongchang World begins?" Wang Xian asked Roving Sword. "We have about 4 more days," answered Roving Sword. 4 days? It's been approximately 1.5 months since we arrived in this world. When the grand contest ends, we will return after entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before answering. "Dragon King, I found the region where we came in from previously. If we break the spirit array of that region, we will be able to get out. However, we will suffer the attacks of the spirit array." Roving Sword had not forgotten Wang Xian's instructions from before as he reported to Wang Xian. "With our strength, it shouldn't be a problem for us to get out. How many more units of dragon energy are you still lacking?" Wang Xian stared at Roving Sword. Reporting, Dragon King. "I'm still lacking approximately 33 million units of dragon energy. With my current cultivation pace, I would require roughly 10 years. If I can enter that Yongchang Cauldron, I should be able to shorten the time required substantially," answered Roving Sword. "Let me increase your strength to level 13 first." Wang Xian's eyes flickered, and he moved his arm and dense streams of dragon energy entered Roving Sword's body directly. "Thank you, Dragon King." Roving Sword sat on the floor right away to digest the dragon energy from Wang Xian. Transferring dragon energy was an easy task for Wang Xian. Moreover, it was easy for Roving Sword to absorb. Dang! Wang! At this moment, razor-sharp swords appeared around Roving Sword suddenly. L. Wang Xian looked with astonishment at the illusory long swords hovering around Roving Sword. These long swords weren't made of metal. Instead, they were exceptionally unique long swords that seemed to possess a special characteristic. 5 long swords circled around him slowly. When Wang Xian sensed Roving Sword growing stronger rapidly, he felt more assured. Looking at the level 11 long sword in his hand, Wang Xian hesitated for some time and decided to refine a level 12 spiritual sword for him. At the same time, Wang Xian was prepared to refine some pieces of spiritual equipment for himself. At the very least, he would want a spiritual sword. With sufficient materials and having leveled up to level 9, refining level 12 spiritual equipment was an easy task for Wang Xian. Soon, 2 level 12 spiritual swords were refined. Looking at the 2 swords, Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together. Would it be possible to craft a dragon sword? To embed the dragon balls within and refine a 5-elemental spiritual sword? Or perhaps I could refine the set of dragon balls into spiritual equipment. Wang Xian thought about it. With his current strength, he was only capable of refining level 12 spiritual equipment. If he wished to refine level 13 spiritual equipment, he would have to dabble in spirit arrays. The arts of water refining of the Hong Immortal Sect had no records on level 13 spiritual equipment. When spiritual equipment reached level 13, it could be called Immortal Treasure. The truncheon that Ajaya had should be an Immortal Treasure class weapon. Previously, Ajaya had relied on her Immortal Treasure to stand her ground against budding realm experts despite not having any other budding realm experts. The Dragon Balls were, in fact, spiritual equipment. Wang Xian was rather unique as he was a 5 elements divine dragon. He could create 5 different Dragon Balls. If he could use 5 different Dragon Balls at the same time, embedding them onto spiritual equipment would be a great decision. I can embed them into 5 different swords or make them into a crown. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. At the thought of the crown that Ajaya was wearing, a smile appeared on his face. With a thought, he looked across through the materials kept within through space rings. At this juncture, the amount of materials within the space ring was astronomical. Level 10 materials could be considered the most common. There was quite a large amount of level 12 material too. Golden crown metal, level 12. Yellowstone water, level 12. Frozen wood, level 12. Fire key stone, level 12. Yellow spiritual earth, level 12. 5 types of materials of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth attribute. It's enough to refine a crown. However, I only have wood Dragon Ball, water Dragon Ball, and fire Dragon Ball at this moment. I'm still missing earth Dragon Ball and metal Dragon Ball. Wang Xian thought to himself. However, it didn't really matter. He just had to collect 2 other elemental Dragon Balls in the future. The crown he was going to refine was just going to be in its preliminary form. Just as Roving Sword was advancing to level 13 and Wang Xian was refining spiritual equipment, 10 figures stood in the air at one corner of Yong world. 2 figures standing in the middle were blurry and had immense energy. The 2 figures emitted fiery red light that was of a different shade than ordinary fire. Their flames had a tinge of holiness. Around then, a group of people stood behind the 2 figures deferentially. Remember what we have instructed you to do. A figure spoke to the crowd. Yes, great fire god. We assure you that we will build a powerful information network in preparation for Yong world descending into the outside world. 2 familiar figures reported respectfully to the 2 illusory figures. Emperor Qi from Diabolism and Ye Wushuang, the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect. The seemingly invincible duo in the Underworld was now standing deferentially behind the 2 illusory figures. We will send 4 other guys with you. As long as it is regarding the establishment of an information network, they will listen to your instructions. Both of you have to establish an all-knowing information group in the shortest time. One of the 2 illusory figures added. Yes, we will definitely complete it. Emperor Qi and Ye Wushuang gave their guarantee instantly. All right, we will send you guys out now. The two illusory figures nodded their heads and raised their palms. Both of them wore red spiritual gloves and expanded instantly at this juncture. The immense energy from the two pairs of huge 5-meter palms shocked Emperor Qi and Ye Wushuang. Ka. A crack easily ripped apart the sky. Get out now! The two illusory figures shouted. Emperor Qi and Ye Wushuang didn't dare to hesitate a moment. They moved and headed towards the other piece of sky instantly. Beside them, 4 old men followed closely. Crack. Explosions reverberated from the space as Emperor Qi and Ye Wushuang left the area. The sounds of these explosions sent chills down the spines of those who heard them. The previous time, they had almost died from the attacks of the spirit array. If the immortals had not intervened, they would have been dead by now. We are back. The duo looked at the familiar sky and excitement beamed in their eyes. Huashan was below them, and they were 10,000 meters above in the sky. The duo pondered for a long time before meeting the eyes of each other. The alliance of orthodox sects and diabolism shall work together to build a powerful information network, Ye Wushuang said solemnly. All right. Emperor Qi nodded his head, looked before him and remarked, I wonder if the Dragon King and the middle-aged man are dead? They must be dead. Even if they are dead, the Dragon Sect still exists. We can't keep the Dragon Sect. In that case, let's annihilate the Dragon Sect first to unite the Underworld. The duo was emotionless and flew away, leaving a trail of light. Behind them, the 4 old men followed closely. Chapter 609, Dragon King? Boom! After a day of sitting beside Wang Xian with his legs crossed, Roving Sword opened his eyes as he sensed a daunting aura emanating out from his body. With a swing, Wang Xian surrounded him with water energy as he fixed his eyes on Roving Sword. 5 illusory long swords were spinning around him at a domineering speed. Wang Xian looked to the side and was surprised to see the long swords at the side were shaking violently. He can even vibrate level 12 spiritual swords? It looks like something is odd about Roving Sword's strength. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes in astonishment. Dragon King. At this time, Roving Sword greeted Wang Xian respectfully while he stood up and looked at Wang Xian. What kind of art are you practicing? The strength seemed odd when you attained your breakthrough. Wang Xian said to Roving Sword, as he was taken aback. Merciless swordsmanship. Dragon King, my merciless swordsmanship has advanced to level 13, the lower-class immortal realm. Lower-class immortal? Are there different classes for immortal level 2? An unexpected radiance flashed in his eyes. Yes, the beginning of the immortal realm after advancement is known as lower-class immortal. After a full mastery of high-class battle techniques, it is known as middle-class immortal. After converting battle techniques to a superpower, it would be known as upper-class immortal. Anything beyond this is not within my knowledge. Roving Sword explained to Wang Xian. I didn't know that immortal realm was divided into 3 levels. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. You may go back now. I'll also enter the Yong cauldron a few days from now. Yes, Dragon King. I'll come in as a champion in this grand contest, said Roving Sword plainly to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. Given Roving Sword's current strength, getting the champion in this grand contest was a piece of cake. No one, except for the immortals of Yong, could be a match for him. After Roving Sword left, Wang Xian continued to refine his spiritual equipment. Elder Wang. 5 disciples called out to Wang Xian, who was refining equipment in the mountain 3 days later. What is it? Asked Wang Xian expressionlessly. He was ready to continue with his refinery. Elder Wang, today's the last day of the grand contest of the 3 immortal sects. It's also the day when the announcement will be made for the top 30. At that time, they will be revealing the names of disciples who will be able to enter Yong Cauldron. The Great Elder wants us to inform you to make a trip over. A disciple said respectfully to Wang Xian. Last day? Wang Xian nodded and stored his materials. Fine, let's go then. Where is it? Lead the way, will you? Yes, Elder Wong. I heard that Elder Wong will be able to enter Yong Chang Cauldron. Congratulations. That disciple spoke with envy. Wang Xian nodded his head impassively as he followed behind and headed to Yong Chang Immortal Sect. Senior Brother Gu Wan, go for it. Senior Brother Hong, go for it. Senior Brother Jin Jian, go for it. Wang Xian could hear cheering voices even when he was 1,000 meters away from the grand contest arena. Wang Xian swept his gaze across and spotted where the Hong Immortal Sect was. He immediately hovered to the elder's side. Elder Wang is here. The elders of the Hong Immortal Sect were sitting on a small hill beside the grand contest arena. Upon seeing Wang Xian's arrival, they immediately greeted him with broad smiles. Today is the day where the top 5 would become known. This was the grand contest that involved all the disciples of Yong Chang Immortal Sect. At this time, none of the elders of the Hong Immortal Sect would miss it. Greetings to Great Elder, Second Great Elder, and the elders. Wang Xian cupped his fists to each of the elders. Elder Wang, the grand contest of 3 major immortal sects will be over once the top 5 is out. At that time, you'll also need to go to the stage as one of the candidates who will be entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Let all the disciples of Yongchang World know about you, said the Great Elder to Wang Xian. Sure. Entering the Yongchang Cauldron was a great opportunity for everyone. Only 13 people in 50 years could do so. After today's grand contest was over, they could enter the cauldron tomorrow. 3 default disciples would also enjoy the same glory as the top 10 disciples. Who are the top 5 currently? Wang Xian looked at the arena with curiosity as he asked the Great Elder beside him. The results will only be determined after the battle of Roving Sword and Jin Jian of Immortal Slaying Sect. The Great Elder chuckled as he pointed to the 2 people in the field. Her. Wang Xian looked over. Sure enough, Roving Sword and another man who had a sharp profile were battling. Haha. Wang Xian chuckled as he looked to the fiery column at one side. On it was a ranking. The 1st to 6th positions were not finalized yet, while the rest of the disciples had already become fixed. Her. At this time, Wang Xian sensed a gaze looking at him, scrutinizing him from head to toe. He raised his eyebrows and spun around, looking at one elder on the mountain. When that elder looked over at Wang Xian, there was no concealment to his cold-looking eyes. I remember there was an elder from the Hong Immortal Sect among those families who tried to assassinate me the other night. It looks like he's the one. A tinge of coldness flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Roving Sword is going to win. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian has always been the top disciple of Immortal Slaying Sect. No one expected that the disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat him. The top 5 will be confirmed. At this time, an elder exclaimed from the side. Wang Xian followed his gaze. True enough, the long sword of Roving Sword had slashed that young man, leaving a long wound on his body, after which he pointed the cold-looking sword at him. Jin Jian was looking dreadful while the arm that was grabbing the long sword was trembling. Where did you get your level 12 spiritual equipment? He bellowed in a low voice with a twisted expression. Roving Sword ignored him entirely as he moved back to his position. If he displayed his full strength, Jin Jian would have been defeated in one stroke. Fine. Seeing that Roving Sword was unconcerned with his questions, Jin Jian's face was as black as coal. He made a move and hovered to a small mountain. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian, you actually lost to a disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect. You're losing your title as the number 1 disciple in the sect. Just as Jin Jian arrived at that mountain, a young man's taunting voice rang in his ears. If not for the fact that he possesses a level 12 spiritual sword, he would definitely not be my match, said Jin Jian coldly with a gloomy look. Don't you have a level 12 spiritual sword too? That young man chuckled, revealing a tinge of curiosity on his face. Did you guys from Immortal Slaying Sect say you would stop him from entering the Yongchang Cauldron? Besides, he doesn't have any friends. Where did he get his level 12 spiritual sword from? How would I know? Jin Jian's expression sank as he tightened his grip on his spiritual sword. I know it was the Dragon King. He was the one who refined it. At this time, Ao Shuan's voice cut through the air. He looked at the spiritual swords in Hong Tianda and Piao Lingshue's hands. The swords in senior brother Hong and junior sister Piao's hands were refined by Dragon King. Dragon King? Yet, what Ao Shuan said stunned the two people beside him. Xiao Xiao and the guild leader of Sacred Followers Guild. When they heard the name, there was a trace of doubt flashing across their eyes. Chapter 610. He is the Dragon King, 1. Dragon King? Xiao Xiao mumbled to herself upon hearing Ao Shuan. She had a strong impression of this name, that brat that could be considered demon-like, even when compared with those of his age in Yongchang world, also had the name Dragon King. When she had first entered the real world, she had no regard for any forces in the underworld, let alone any of the supreme talents of the underworld. Even Emperor Qi of Diabolism and the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect, Nie Wushuang, were average in her eyes. However, that demon-like Dragon King had truly surprised and shocked her. Upon hearing this name, she was a little doubtful. The sect leader of the Sacred Followers Guild beside her was equally surprised and doubtful. That's right. It was refined by the Dragon King. Piao Lingxue nodded her head plainly before continuing. However, he's just a blacksmith master. He probably couldn't refine level 12 spiritual equipment. Dragon King? Several supreme talents of Yongchang Immortal Sect and Immortal Slaying Sect exclaimed with curiosity. Over the recent period, they had been focusing on preparing for the grand contest and had not paid attention to other matters. He can refine level 12 spiritual equipment now. He's a blacksmith grandmaster, said Ao Shuan with a tinge of fear and respect. That's a grandmaster. Over the recent period, the dozen-odd forces had been monitoring the Dragon King through various methods. The moment he could refine level 7 elixir pills and level 12 spiritual equipment, they knew about it. The greater the strength the Dragon King displayed, the more horrified they were. They also knew about Roving Sword visiting the Dragon King a few days ago. What? Grandmaster? The crowd of supreme talents were taken aback as they revealed expressions of shock. Ao Shuan nodded his head, looked at Jin Jian and said, his spiritual sword was forged by the Dragon King. Dragon King? Grandmaster? Jin Jian looked bitter, and a tinge of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes. Ao Shuan was secretly exhilarated. He knew that Jin Jian was a petty person who would definitely deal with those who went against him. As long as he could give the Dragon King some issues, Ao Shuan wouldn't let the opportunity slip. Who would have expected that another Grandmaster would appear in Yongchang world? The handsome young man with long hair, Gu Wan, was surprised. Senior brother Hong probably referred to him when he talked about the one who would be first in the rankings of young disciples. Ao Shuan glanced at Gu Wan, smirked, and added, "Oh, Hong Tianda, is he the one you're talking about?" Before Hong Tianda said a word, Gu Wan squinted his eyes and asked him. "Yeah, you wouldn't be a match for him," said Hong Tianda boldly and frankly. "Hee, is that so? In that case, I would like to meet him if there's an opportunity," replied Gu Wan coldly. Hong Tianda didn't respond and simply sat there. Seeing this, Ao Shuan was pleasantly surprised. "Junior Sister Hua, it's our battle next. Do you still want to compete?" "It's not necessary. I admit my defeat. Let's bring on the battle between Senior Brother Hong and Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect." "Haha, Hong Tianda, I'll defeat you easily in our upcoming battle. The title of the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects will definitely be mine." The contest continued. After half an hour, the match between the strongest disciple of the Hong Immortal Sect, Hong Tianda, and Roving Sword of Immortal Slaying Sect started. Just as everyone thought that Hong Tianda would emerge victoriously, Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect won once again. This shocked everyone, including all the supreme talents. Senior Brother Hong was defeated by Roving Sword. What a huge upset. This is really shocking. Roving Sword defeated Senior Brother Hong Tianda. It would seem that he has the strength to win it all. He's the greatest dark horse for this contest. However, it would likely be impossible for him to defeat Senior Brother Gu Wan. Senior Brother Gu Wan is a level stronger than Senior Brother Hong. He should be able to defeat Roving Sword. Around the arena, several tens of thousands of disciples were discussing fervently. Roving Sword, making it to the finals, had exceeded the expectation of all the disciples. However, none of these disciples felt that Roving Sword would be able to defeat Gu Wan. Gu Wan was the strongest disciple of Yong Chang Immortal Sect. He was incredibly strong and had Heavenly Flame, a set of spiritual equipment and strength that triumphed over his peers and other supreme talents. Roving Sword making it to the finals was indeed unexpected. However, he's still lacking the strength to defeat Gu Wan. An elder on the mountain peak, where all elders had gathered, commented plainly. Elder Wong, once their contest is over, head to the arena. At that time, the sect will announce the name list to enter Yongchang Cauldron. The great elder looked at Wang Xian and remarked, "MMM." Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked around him and smirked. No one here could defeat Roving Sword. At this very moment, on the small mountain peak where the elders of Immortal Slaying Sect were standing, the elders' eyebrows were knitted together and their eyes were fixed on Roving Sword. He defeated Hong Tianda. Do you guys think he will defeat Guwan? An old man frowned and asked this with a bitter face. Although the sect leader had given his orders to disallow Roving Sword from entering the Yongchang Cauldron, Roving Sword had now made it to the finals. Based on the rules of the Grand Contest, the top 10 would qualify to enter Yongchang Cauldron. On the rare chance that Roving Sword was to defeat Gu Wan, he would be the overall champion for this Grand Contest. If they were to disallow the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects from entering Yongchang Cauldron, they would find it hard to explain themselves. Moreover, this wouldn't do any good to the reputation of Immortal Slaying Sect. Trying to put down their most talented disciple, what would the disciples of other immortal sects think? The current situation is having some implications for the reputation of our Immortal Slaying Sect. He most likely couldn't defeat Gu Wan from Yongchang Immortal Sect. An elder standing by the side spoke with a worried frown. What if? Why don't we let him give up the match? This would save us from any potential implications. Another elder hesitated for a moment before suggesting, that will work. At the end of the day, he will definitely have issues with not being able to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. In that case, let's just be more decisive. What issues could this kid have? He's just like a machine. The elders of Immortal Slaying Sect made their decisions and informed the referee immediately that Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect had admitted his defeat. Admitted defeat? Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect has admitted his defeat? Sigh. I thought we would be getting a thrilling contest. Who would have expected him to admit defeat? It seems like Roving Sword knows where he stands. He probably has chosen to admit his defeat after learning how strong Senior Brother Gu Wan is. Indeed, Senior Brother Gu Wan is undoubtedly the strongest disciple in the younger generation. When the hundreds of thousands of disciples around heard the news of Roving Sword admitting his defeat, they frowned initially and soon broke out into raucous discussion. When Wang Xian heard the news, he was astonished. Roving Sword admitted his defeat. Roving Sword had told him that he was going to take first place. Since Roving Sword had promised him, Roving Sword would definitely ensure that it came to fruition. Roving Sword, you won't have to fight the last match. We have admitted defeat on your behalf. Just as Roving Sword was frowning and feeling puzzled about the news, he heard the great elder of Immortal Slaying Sect. He was taken aback. His expression turned solemn, but he didn't say a word. Chapter 611. He is the Dragon King, 2. This ends our Grand Disciple Tournament of Yongchang Immortal Sect. Disciples in the top 30, please make your way up Talent Peak. Default disciples within the three major immortal sects to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, please make your way up Talent Peak. The voice of the referee echoed within an area with a radius of more than a dozen kilometers as he remained on the sparring stage, once all the placings had been finalized. All the disciples heard the announcement loud and clear. Disciples in the top 30. They are the 30 strongest disciples within all of Yongchang. How I envy them. It's all glory and achievement for these 30 most outstanding ones within the entire Yongchang. The top 10 are qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. This is a massive resource we're talking about. In addition, there are 3 default disciples appointed within the 3 immortal sects. I wonder who they are. The default disciple within the Yongchang Immortal Sect is Junior Sister Xiao Xiao, without a doubt. As for Immortal Slaying Sect, it should be Lu Qianfeng. At the mere age of 20, he already possesses Dan Realm prowess. Such an incredible natural gift. Rumor has it that he's the default disciple. While the one for the Hong Immortal Sect remains unknown, the discussion began to fire up amongst the crowd, which was made up of hundreds of thousands of disciples. The entire area was sent into utter chaos. Let's go. Congrats, Senior Brother Guwan. To think that Roving Sword still knows his limits. In knowing that he is no match for you, he chose to concede defeat immediately. Haha, as I said, Senior Brother Guwan will definitely emerge as the top in this tournament as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects. Several disciples congratulated Guwan as they stood atop the summit where all the outstanding young heroes had gathered. Haha, I intended to spar against that Roving Sword. Little did I expect him to throw in the towel. He sure knows his limits, haha. Guwan roared with laughter with his head held high. He was wearing gloves the color of crimson while holding onto the flaming spear. There he was, as though he was the flaming god of war. With a face full of self-conceit, he scanned his surroundings while revealing a faint smile. He would emerge as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects after today, which was an unparalleled honor. Let's go, Grand Senior Brother. One of the disciples gestured with a smile. In one swift shuffle, he leaped onto a long sword and flew towards another summit which stood beside the current sparring stage. Let's go. The crowd of outstanding young heroes flew off. In an instant, their movement attracted the stares of the hundreds of thousands of disciples as they looked at the group with the utmost envy and respect. Be on your way now, Xiao Xiao. The guild leader of the Sacred Followers Guild laughed as he spoke when he saw that the former had yet to take her leave as they remained on the summit. Father, you said you had a set of spiritual equipment and armor refined for me. I'm going to put them on today, haha. Xiao Xiao grinned from ear to ear before flying in another direction. Elder Wang, please get going, the great elder said to Wang Xian with a smile, as the duo stood atop the elders' summit that belonged to the Hong Immortal Sect. All right, elders. I'll head over then. Wang Xian replied pleasantly. With a change of stance, he took off in the direction of the mountain which stood at the center. Haha. Several elders from the Hong Immortal Sect watched from behind Wang Xian with a tinge of envy. That said, one of the elders frowned as he watched Wang Xian making his way over. He looked on with an even darker expression. Whiz! Dragon King! As Wang Xian flew over to the centermost mountain, he was greeted by the voice of Roving Sword. Roving Sword, why did you concede defeat at the last minute? Wang Xian asked in utter confusion as he looked at Roving Sword with furrowed brows. It's the several elders from Immortal Slaying Sect. They threw in the towel directly and only informed me after conceding defeat. Roving Sword replied emotionlessly. They got you to concede defeat? Wang Xian was taken by surprise. To which, he continued, it's all right, so long as you can make it into the Yongchang Cauldron. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded in response. As the two shifted, they arrived at the peak of the centermost mountain. As they stood on the platform of the summit, they could see the hundreds of thousands of disciples at a glance. As the platform was relatively small, the crowd of disciples below could also make out the outline of those atop the platform. Congratulations, Senior Brother Guwan, for becoming the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects, the strongest contender amongst all current disciples. Truly deserving of the title, Senior Brother Guwan. As they reached the stage, Wang Xian could see the crowd who had gathered to extend their best wishes to Guwan. Haha. At the sight, Wang Xian snorted in dismissal as he stood by the side. Junior brother Hong, which is the Dragon King whom you were talking about? The one who made you think he was one we couldn't match up to? Show him to me. Just then, Guwen spoke in a standoffish tone. Amongst the disciples of the three major immortal sects, one's position would not be based on age, but rather capabilities alone. The one to emerge as the strongest would ascend to become the senior disciple. Guwen had asked the question indifferently, while surveying his surroundings where his gaze eventually landed on Roving Sword and Wang Xian. That's right. Which of them is it? Is it that young chap beside Roving Sword? That's him, Dragon King of the Dahong Immortal Sect? Another young man spoke with a faint smirk while standing beside Guwen as he turned over to look at Wang Xian as well. The stage was relatively small, hence one could see everyone around with a brief glance. Amongst which, Wang Xian stood out as the only stranger, one whom they had never met before. Guwen, you are no match for him, Hong Tianda said to Guwen in a flat tone as he watched Guwen, locking his brows. Oh, is that so? I'll see for myself then. During the matches this time around, Junior Sister Hua conceded defeat at the last minute, while Roving Heavens, who defeated you, had to concede defeat towards me. How upsetting. If possible, I wouldn't mind having someone to practice with. Guwen rebutted with his head held high while he placed his spear on his back. The title of the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects, along with the concession of defeat from Roving Sword, had built up his self-conceit and ego. But then again, he had the means to. He smirked as he looked at Wang Xian before making his way over with a smile. Hi, Junior, I'm Guwen. Junior brother Hong has been speaking highly of you, so I decided to come over and take a look. Oh, hello there. Wang Xian nodded briefly as he looked at Guwen. He said that your prowess is above mine, so I've come to test it out myself and to help junior brother Hong correct his mistake. Guwen continued. That I, Guwen, am actually the most powerful. Guwen enunciated every word of his last sentence with extra emphasis while looking at Wang Xian with the utmost dominance. Meanwhile, the crowd of disciples looked upon the domineering Guwen, who was surging with pride, in complete admiration. This should be the dominance expected from the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects. That's right, senior brother Guwen's truly formidable. Just based on this thought of his, that he's unrivaled, it's already something which no one can compare to alone. Truly admirable. The crowd of disciples from the three immortal sects heaved a sigh of envy and self-resignation. During his last two matches in the Grand Disciple Tournament amongst the three immortal sects this time, the opponents proceeded to concede defeat without senior brother Guwen even having to lift a finger. For they knew that they were not his match. And yet, Hong Tianda was now saying that senior brother Guwen was no match for the Dragon King. Hence, Guwen decided to challenge Wang Xian. Such was the dominance and aura from the strongest contender of the current times. If you say you're the most powerful, then so be it. Wang Xian replied to Guwen flatly. He had intended to leave right after entering the Yong cauldron this time and wanted no trouble. He had even less interest in pitting himself against a chap who he could crush as easily as the pinching of his fingers. Upon seeing the attitude coming from Wang Xian, Guwen frowned. I never admit to being the most powerful through words, but prove it through action. You can test it out yourself if you are unconvinced, Junior. Thereafter, he continued indifferently. And let us see for ourselves what prowess you possess, which gave you the right to be appointed as the default disciple by the Dahong Immortal Sect to enter the Yong Cauldron. The crowd laughed in jest as they watched the spectacle while eyeing Wang Xian with the utmost curiosity. Just you alone have no right to challenge the Dragon King. Roving Sword retorted coldly upon seeing how snobbish Guwen was while speaking to his beloved Dragon King. Chapter 612. He is the Dragon King, 3. You aren't qualified to challenge the Dragon King. A cold and emotionless voice came from Roving Sword, shocking the crowd on the platform. Guwen was stunned too. He squinted his eyes and turned to face Roving Sword emotionlessly. For a guy who didn't even have the guts to face me in battle, what right do you have to speak before me? Gu Wen stared at Roving Sword and chided him harshly. Roving Sword, watch your words. Qualified? SK. What qualifications are needed? The predetermined slots will only be given to young disciples who showed promise, but not so for an expert. An expert wouldn't require this predetermined slot. Just as Gu Wen completed his words, Jin Jian stared at Wang Xian and mocked harshly. Senior brother Jin is right. The predetermined slots wouldn't be for experts, but for promising disciples. Another Supreme Talent disciple seconded this. He looked at Roving Sword with contempt before continuing. Moreover, a guy who didn't even dare to face senior brother Gu Wen isn't qualified to say this. How ignorant. Seeing how the situation had developed, Piaoling Xue and Hong Tianda frowned slightly. They had not expected Roving Sword to speak up for the Dragon King. Moreover, his words weren't rational at all. On the other end, Ao Shuwen was pleasantly surprised and watched how things had developed with a smirk. Scram. However, to the astonishment of everyone, Roving Sword's cold and emotionless voice resounded once again. His response of scram instantly dampened the atmosphere. Roving Sword, you better watch your words. For a guy who isn't even qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, how could you even be so arrogant? Jin Jian, who bore a grudge against Roving Sword, remarked harshly. He isn't qualified? What Jin Jian had said aroused the suspicions of the supreme talents around. That's right. You guys will know in a while. A person who doesn't respect his mentors and doesn't know how to interact with others won't be qualified to enter Yongchang Cauldron. Jin Jian remarked with ridicule while smirking over the treatment of Roving Sword. The Immortal Slaying Sect is right with this decision. Gu Wen stared plainly at Roving Sword while commenting. Not qualified? Wang Xian frowned slightly. Roving Sword isn't qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. He is the runner-up for the Grand Contest. Why wouldn't he be qualified? Admitting defeat on his behalf and barring him from entering Yongchang Cauldron subsequently? It seems like the higher management of the Immortal Slaying Sect isn't pleased with Roving Sword. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked at Gu Wen with a sense of superiority. With an emotionless tone, he said, just scram when we ask you to scram. You guys must be courting your own deaths. When Wang Xian asked him to scram again, anger flashed in the eyes of Gu Wen. As the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects and the #1 disciple for the Grand Contest, he had already become unhappy when Hong Tianda questioned the legitimacy of his status. Now, he was offended consecutively. Anger welled up within him, and he grabbed the long spear behind his back. Wang Xian didn't say a word and only looked at Roving Sword simply. You are the one who's courting your own death, trash. Dang. Roving Sword naturally understood what Wang Xian intended. The next instant, he drew the spiritual sword from his scabbard. Great, great. A piece of trash who didn't even have the guts to fight against me is challenging me now. In that case, I'll show you my real strength and send you rolling off the platform. Seeing Roving Sword draw his sword, Gu Wen was as cold as ice. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Dustless sword. Without batting an eye, Roving Sword attacked with the long sword in his hand with unbelievable speed. Gu Wen was astonished at the speed of Roving Sword. Flames over 100 meters in size were emitted from his body like a godly fire spear. Shit, move back. The sudden attack of Roving Sword and the release of aura by Gu Wen shocked the group of supreme talents as they retreated to the side instantly. Fuck. What's happening? What's happening? Why are there sudden explosions of terrifying aura from the platform above the peak? Shit. Roving Sword is fighting with senior brother Gu Wen. Why did they start fighting so suddenly? What's happening? Roving Sword didn't admit his defeat willingly? Why would he start a fight now if he felt that he isn't a match for senior brother Gu Wen previously? The hundreds of thousands of disciples around were shocked to see a battle erupting on the platform above. Why would there be a fight suddenly? Even the elders from the three immortal sects were astonished by what they were seeing. You alone aren't sufficient to be arrogant before the Dragon King. Roving Sword was unmoved in the face of Gu, who was shrouded in flames that reached over 100 meters. He swung the long sword in his hand, and terrifying metal attribute energy coalesced into a 1,000-meter-long long sword which slashed ahead. What? How could he be capable of such a terrifying attack? Gu felt fear upon seeing the heart-wrenching energy within the strike which Roving Sword had launched casually. "Flaming Cage Bell!" he shouted loudly. The next instant, the flames around him turned golden and formed a dazzling huge bell around him. The huge bell around him looked extremely tough and thick. Boom! What? However, the terrifying energy of the long sword instantly split the bell the moment it collided with it. What gives you the guts to even be arrogant? Roving Sword moved and appeared before Gu the next instant. Without holding back at all, he lunged forward with the long sword in his hand. Boom! Terrifying sword glow fell on Gu as fear beamed in his eyes. Boom! From a height of 1,000 meters, Gu fell towards the ground at an astonishing speed. The moment he crashed into the ground, a terrifying explosion reverberated across. Cough, cough. No, this isn't possible. Gu spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Looking at the protecting spiritual gear on him, his eyes were filled with disbelief, fear, and surprise. If the elders had not admitted my defeat to the referee without informing me, do you think a piece of trash like you would be able to get the first ranking? At this moment, Roving Sword's emotionless voice reverberated throughout the crowd. The entire fight had lasted for at most 5 seconds from the start to the end. Before all the disciples around could react to it, Gu was defeated. Moreover, his defeat was sealed in 2 moves. Just 2 moves. This made many people unable to believe what they were seeing. Moreover, senior brother Gu had still been the champion of the grand contest moments ago. He was the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects in the entire younger generation. Yet, he was defeated in such a short time without being able to put up any resistance. The contrast was simply too huge. The group of supreme talents in the air stared at senior brother Gu with disbelief and shock. How can this be possible? How could he be so strong? Roving Sword said moments ago that it was the elders from Immortal Slaying Sect that admitted his defeat. In other words, it wasn't his own decision. Defeating senior brother Gu in 2 strikes. Has he reached the half-step to Immortal Realm? The group of supreme talents were shaken and couldn't help but swallow their saliva in awe. As for the hundreds of thousands of disciples from the 3 immortal sects, they felt as if their world was being thrown into disarray. Chapter 6:13. He is the Dragon King. 4. How's this possible? How could this be? How can he be that powerful? This is madness. It's insane. The stances weren't even this forceful during the spar between Roving Sword and senior brother Hong Tianda. Now how did it? Just earlier, senior brother Roving Sword had said that the elder from Immortal Slaying Sect had been the one to concede defeat personally by gesturing to the referee. Why would he do that? 2 moves. All it took was 2 mere moves to defeat senior brother Gu. It was really formidable. The gap is too huge. To think that senior brother Gu, the invincible one of the young generation, has been defeated so easily. This, the surrounding hundreds of thousands of disciples uttered as they gulped in disbelief, watching senior brother Gu. He was slowly picking himself up from the ground while recovering from a state of being a mess. This was the number 1 senior brother Gu, champion of a grand tournament. To think that he could not even withstand 2 moves. Just how powerful was the prowess of Roving Sword? This fellow. Meanwhile, the elders from the Immortal Slaying Sect muttered as their group of more than a dozen watched from atop the summit they were at. They all looked on with darkened and awful expressions. But while they were fuming in fury, they were also overwhelmed by shock and trepidation at the same time. Don't tell me he made some breakthroughs in his swordsmanship? How could this be? How long has it been? To think his prowess has developed this much. He's one wicked talent. Given his spiritual equipment and armor, along with his prowess, Gu Wan is already considered to be at the apex of the budding realm. And yet, he's been defeated in 2 moves. Don't tell me Roving Sword's prowess has already ascended to half-step to Immortal Realm. That's possible. It appears that he is very likely to reach the Immortal Realm, even if he doesn't enter the Yong Cauldron. The group of elders from the Immortal Slaying Sect spoke as they eyed Roving Sword with the utmost shock and caution. After all, the prowess which the latter displayed had sent them into alarm and frenzy. Wow, if he still isn't allowed into the Yong Cauldron given his current prowess, then, the elder from the Immortal Slaying Sect murmured with a contorted look. The Immortal Slaying Sect had really embarrassed themselves this time around. The approach of Roving Sword was also no doubt a tight slap to the Immortal Slaying Sect. Dragon King, Roving Sword called out. He was checking on Gu Wan, who was located beneath, before arriving by Wang Xian's side. Oh! Without saying a word, Wang Xian nodded in response as he stood atop the summit, expressionless. To which, Roving Sword also remained silent as he stood behind Wang Xian on his diagonal right. Wang Xian had his reasons for mobilizing Roving Sword and allowing him to defeat Gu Wan. The Immortal Slaying Sect had forbidden Roving Sword from entering the Yong Cauldron, which was somewhat against the rules of the Grand Tournament. Yet, he had no means of intervention given that this was the decision made by the Immortal Slaying Sect. In that case, he might as well allow Roving Sword to defeat Gu Wan. With even the champion of the Grand Tournament of the 3 major Immortal Sects being unable to make it into the Yong Cauldron, it would no doubt place the Immortal Slaying Sect in a difficult position. Perhaps then, through this method, the Immortal Slaying Sect would allow Roving Sword into the Yong Cauldron. Tisk, Roving Sword seems to be on rather amicable terms with this Dragon King. Just then, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who had been suspended in midair took in one deep breath as they eyed Wang Xian and Roving Sword who were on stage with glistening eyes. This Roving Sword seems to be very obedient towards the Dragon King's words. Have you all noticed that he's been standing one step behind the Dragon King throughout these proceedings while paying him due respect? One of the outstanding young heroes looked on at the duo with utter shock as they remained on stage. As of now, the only ones remaining on the stage of the summit were Roving Sword and Wang Xian. As they stood, they gave off a special vibe to the rest who were watching. It was an attitude as though they were invincible. It was an attitude as though they had the world at their feet. His prowess? Jin Jian and Ao Shuwen questioned this with awful expressions as they eyed the duo that was on stage. Seems like Roving Sword is no match for the Dragon King, which explains why he's so respectful towards him. Hong Tianda finally managed to comment after gasping in a deep breath. At the same time, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who were suspended in midair remained silent for a long while. What? All the outstanding young heroes were stunned by the sentence from Hong Tianda as they turned their heads in utter shock. How's that possible? I reckon, with Roving Sword's prowess, even the elders from our immortal sects would be no match for him. How can that Dragon King be even stronger than Roving Sword then? Ao Shuwen rebutted immediately while his face darkened. In my opinion, Roving Sword would be able to handle at least 5 to 6 budding realm experts single-handedly. So how can that Dragon King be even stronger than him? Don't tell me their prowess has reached half-step to immortality, another young hero questioned with a low growl. He ever defeated me in one move. Hong Tianda replied coolly as he watched Wang Xian with shifting eyes. What defeated you, senior brother Hong, in one move? All the young heroes gasped once again. As they did, they spun their heads about and fixed their gazes upon Wang Xian. Roving Sword was able to defeat senior brother Gu Wan using 2 moves, while the Dragon King was able to take senior brother Hong down in 1. Ha, ha, the young heroes had their tongues tied as they gazed at the duo on the stage. The hundreds of thousands of disciples who remained beneath also had their eyes on the duo who remained on stage. Why aren't the other seniors getting up on the summit stage? Some of the disciples muttered under their breath as they watched in confusion. Let's go. After another round of silence which lasted under a minute, Hong Tianda shifted his stance before leaping gently onto the summit stage. He stood to the side while sweeping his gaze across the duo. Piao Lingxue looked at Wang Xian and still did not walk over to him after some brief contemplation. She felt as though the other party and herself were beings from two different worlds. If what Hong Tianda says is true, perhaps then, under some preemptive calculation, the Dragon King and Roving Sword pair are enough to kill 15 experts of the budding realm. Ao Shuwen managed this with a burdened look while his eyes watered. Dear outstanding young heroes, please stand along the aisle. Sect leader Hong Yen will soon present you with your awards. Just then, the voice of an elder from the Yong Chang immortal sect could be heard. The various disciples made their way to the fringe of the stage. After having just recovered from their excitement, their eyes were stirring with emotions. To each and every one of the disciples, it was an immense honor to be able to have the grand immortal grace the event in person. Will the immortal appear? Wang Xian asked in mild surprise, but recovered his composure soon after. For he feared no immortal right now. Shum! Just then, a commotion was stirring from beneath. Huh! It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. The attire on her, though, looks so scary. Such a powerful surge of flames from this attire. It's covered in level 12 spiritual equipment from top to bottom. The crowd of outstanding young heroes said as they looked down. Upon seeing Xiao Xiao, who was emitting holy flames while she flapped her flaming wings, the youths peered at her in envy. Xiao Xiao was decked in spiritual equipment from head to toe, from her earrings, necklace, bangles, shoes, clothes, and wings. I reckon it's the spiritual equipment which His Excellency Huolong has made for junior sister Xiao Xiao. The crowd of youths muttered to themselves while green with envy. Dear senior brothers and sisters, I'm here, Xiao Xiao said in elation as she smiled while glancing over to the crowd who stood on the summit stage. Come over quick, Xiao Xiao. Come on up, junior sister. The group of youths gestured to Xiao Xiao with big smiles. Smiling, she nodded in response before flapping her wings in resemblance to a beautiful and adorable flaming angel. Turning their heads to look up at her, the hundreds of thousands of disciples underneath looked on in complete awe. Some of the male disciples even uttered to themselves, saying that the one who marries her would be able to have it easy for the rest of their life. Chapter 6:14. Wait while I kill them. 1. Hee hee. Feeling the gazes from hundreds of thousands of people, Xiao Xiao felt a little shy as she flapped her wings and moved towards the platform on the peak. However, she was completely dumbfounded when she was approaching the platform and saw a familiar figure. It's her? I had not expected her to be from the Hong Immortal Sect. However, Wang Xian frowned and clearly wasn't very excited upon seeing the young girl. He had seen the young girl previously. She was a disciple of the sect leader of the Sacred Followers Guild. Why would it be him? This? Xiao Xiao was dumbfounded at this moment. She stared blankly at Wang Xian and mumbled, Dragon King. Why is he? It's really him. Xiao Xiao, come to my side. At this moment, a girl on the platform signaled to her. She flew mechanically towards the platform while her gaze was still locked tightly on Wang Xian. Xiao Xiao, what are you looking at? When the girl on the platform saw the blank look on Xiao Xiao, she asked this curiously. Dragon King. He is the Dragon King. What a surprise. Really unexpected. Xiao Xiao shouted abruptly. Her eyes widened and stared at Wang Xian with disbelief. Huh. Her sudden actions drew the attention of the remaining supreme talents on the stage as they looked over inquisitively. What's the matter, Xiao Xiao? The girl placed her arms on Xiao Xiao's shoulders and asked. We meet again. Wang Xian turned around, looked at Xiao Xiao and revealed a faint smile. Xiao Xiao's expression changed, and she started observing Wang Xian from top to bottom while ignoring the girl beside her. With a surprised look, she remarked, I had not expected you to be still alive. Wang Xian smiled and said with confidence, Who could possibly kill me? Xiao Xiao, Do you know the Dragon King from Dahong Immortal Sect? Seeing that Xiao Xiao was ignoring her, the girl beside Xiao Xiao frowned and asked again. Around them, the Supreme Talents watched curiously. Dragon King from Dahong Immortal Sect? Xiao Xiao stared at the Dragon King and said with her eyes shimmering, "He isn't the Dragon King from Dahong Immortal Sect." Huh. The other girl and the surrounding Supreme Talents were astonished. Wang Xian looked plainly at her and didn't attempt to stop her. He knew that he wouldn't be able to do so. He's the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect. The Dragon King from Dragon Sect of the real world. Xiao Xiao stared intensely at Wang Xian as she increased her volume. What? The surrounding Supreme Talents were stunned and surprised. In the real world, the Dragon King from the Underworld established the Dragon Sect st the age of 20. With the forces of his Dragon Sect, he triumphed over the strongest expert of the alliance of the Orthodox sects, Nie Wushuang, and Emperor Qi from Diabolism. In the battle at the peak of Huashan, he broke the defensive spirit array of Yong world and entered our world. I thought he would be killed by the attacks of the spirit array, but he survived unexpectedly. Xiao Xiao added this emotionally. Her face was flushed and a myriad of emotions filled her eyes. She was shocked but also respected Wang Xian. What? Dragon King from the real world? Guowen exclaimed with astonishment as he flew up. The surrounding Supreme Talents were equally astonished. Junior sister Xiao Xiao, you were saying he's from the real world? This. How did he get into our Yongchang world? It's definitely him. I'm certain that I didn't mistake him for someone else. It is him. Are you the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect? Xiao Xiao pointed at Wang Xian and asked loudly. The edge of Wang Xian's lips curved upwards as he replied, I'm the Dragon King of Dragon Sect from the real world. Nice to meet everyone. I'm the Dragon King of Dragon Sect from the real world. Nice to meet everyone. Upon hearing Wang Xian, the eyes of the surrounding Supreme Talents widened in disbelief. All of them turned around and stared at Wang Xian vigilantly. He's from the real world? Who would have expected you to be from the real world? The Supreme Talents growled with astonishment while their eyes widened. The outside world and an outsider. You are from the real world. What are you plotting? To infiltrate our immortal sects? Ao Shuan's expression changed and he shouted loudly. His voice reverberated across tens of kilometers. All the disciples around could hear him clearly. What's the situation? What's happening? An outsider from the real world? Seeing the sudden changes happening on the stage on the peak, the surrounding hundreds of thousands of disciples were dumbfounded. Everyone stood up, while feeling a little confused, and stared fervently at the platform. I got to this place by accident, and it's only natural for me to want to make a name for myself here. Wang Xian smiled faintly and turned to Xiao Xiao. Hey girl, you have disrupted my plan. A man from the real world. What are your intentions for joining our three immortal sects and entering the Yongchang world? Ao Shuan stared at Wang Xian while shouting again. His voice reverberated across the area with a radius of several tens of kilometers once again. This time, everyone in the vicinity had their doubts confirmed. A man from the real world? Senior brother Ao Shuan is saying that the Dragon King is from the real world. Really? The Dragon King from Dahong Immortal Sect is from the real world? Exclamations could be heard from below, and the surrounding disciples were shocked. The elders from the three immortal sects flew towards the platform on the peak instantly. Elder Wang is from the real world? The great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect instantly questioned this harshly. Rumble. Several elders surrounded the platform in the peak completely. Their eyes were all fixed on Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at the 50 to 60 budding realm experts around him. Gradually, a smirk appeared on his face. He clasped his right fist with his left palm and said plainly, Dragon King from the Dragon Sect of the Underworld. Nice to meet everyone. He's really from the real world. Disbelief beamed in the eyes of the great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. The Dragon King was actually from the real world. A genius like him, a demon-like talent like him was from the world that was experiencing the age of Dharma decline. This was unbelievable for them. How could such a demon-like talent exist in the real world? You definitely have ill intentions for joining our Dahong immortal sect. Speak. What are your intentions? An elder from Dahong immortal sect questioned Wang Xian harshly. Regardless, his intentions wouldn't be kind. Let's just kill him. Kill him. Ao Shuwen seconded this loudly. Dense killing intent was beaming in his eyes. That's right. Cripple his cultivation and interrogate him about his sinister plot. Several elders from Yong Chang immortal sect remarked harshly as ruthlessness flashed across their eyes. Just kill him, an elder from immortal slaying sect shouted. With the crowd cheering for the killing of the Dragon King, the elders from the three immortal sects felt compelled to take action but were hesitant as they stared at him. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family. Hee. It seems like the warning I sent out to you guys for trying to assassinate me wasn't sufficient. Wang Xian looked across the elders that spoke and ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Chapter 6:15. Wait while I kill them, too. Those elders who wanted to speak had a drastic change in their expressions upon hearing what Wang Xian said. It's you. It's indeed you. Elder Liang, Elder Tong, and attendant Ao were killed by you. An elder bellowed with a darkened expression as he stared at Wang Xian with murderous eyes. Since they dared to try to assassinate me, they should have been prepared to meet their doom. Wang Xian said with his icy eyes. All the surrounding elders were startled as they focused their attention on the several elders who had spoken just now. Those 15 budding realm experts of Yongchang City half a month ago were killed by Dragon King. An elder with fiery red hair in the center questioned Wang Xian with flickering radiance in his eyes. Half a month ago, 15 people sieged the surrounding region near my shop with an array in an attempt to kill me. Of course, I wouldn't let them live. I guess I have infringed on some people's interests. Wang Xian swept his gaze across several elders plainly with a faint smile on his face. We discovered something was wrong with you during our night investigation and got killed by you. Today, we'll avenge them. That elder of Dahong immortal sect remained unwavering as he spoke, fixing death stares on Wang Xian. In the past, they did not dare to spill the beans openly. Knowing that the Dragon King was an outsider, it put them completely at ease now. No matter how that outsider tried to explain himself, it would never win against their claims. After all, he came from the outside world. Let's just keep him under control now, an elder said coldly. Yes, that goes without saying. We should capture him first, an elder echoed. The rest of the elders nodded in agreement. No matter what, they had to control him first since he was from the real world. Let's cripple him and his cultivation to prevent troubles. A glimmer of excitement flashed in Ao Shuwen's eyes with a ferocious look surfacing on his face. With a swift move, he darted to Wang Xian for a strike. Cripple him? Just as Ao Shuwen struck, another 4 people lurched at Wang Xian immediately. Upon witnessing the scene, Xiao Xiao was slightly stunned. Her expression sank while she kept her silence. Sigh. I came to this place quietly, and I wanted to leave quietly too. You guys wanted to court your doom. Seeing the quintet was prepared to cripple him, coldness twinkled in Wang Xian's eyes. Kill them. When Wang Xian's emotionless voice resounded, he had already charged toward the quintet who was approaching 5 meters away. Wow! A crisp sound was heard as a golden radiance flashed, revealing 5 malevolent people. Dragon King. Go to hell. The excitement and malevolent expression filled the face of Ao Shuwen as he pointed the longsword at Wang Xian. The other 4 wore cold faces. Not only had the Dragon King caused a massive loss to them, but he had also killed one top-notch expert from their clan. This feud was implacable. Now that they had this opportunity, they would not let him off. How is this possible? At this point in time, a supreme talent behind the quintet suddenly showed fright in his eyes. What? When the quintet exploded their daunting aura, they were stunned when they heard a voice behind them. Subsequently, they felt their energy dissipating at a terrifying speed. Traceless sword. Roving sword stood before Wang Xian and withdrew his sword after spitting out the words. Ah, no. The five of them felt their energy dissipating within their bodies as they looked down in trepidation. They felt panic as they let out despair shrieks. Half of their bodies were slowly collapsing onto the ground. One sword move had divided them into two. Sensing their vitality diminishing at a rapid speed, the quintet lost all hope. It's him. He's the subordinate of Dragon King. I didn't expect it to be him. He's still alive. Xiao Xiao watched this scene and quickly spun around with a pale-looking face. She stared at Roving Sword and spoke at the top of her lungs. What? Roving Sword is the subordinate of Dragon King? That's right, it's him. He's Dragon King's man, and he came from the real world too. Xiao Xiao said with a loud voice. Go to hell, Roving Sword. You actually came from the real world. To think that immortal slaying sect spent great efforts to cultivate you. You are so cruel. Die. How dare you strike? Take him down. If he dares to resist, kill him. Seeing that Roving Sword actually killed 4 elders and 1 supreme talent in one go, the 3 immortal sects became nervous as they exclaimed loudly. 60 budding realm experts immediately erupted their domineering auras from their bodies, locking onto Wang Xian and Roving Sword completely. Surrender immediately. The great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect stared at Wang Xian with a complicated look as he yelled in a low voice. Don't mess with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind a killing spree. Wang Xian swept his cold gaze across 60-odd budding realm experts as he replied coldly. Kill them. How dare he kill the people from Yongchang world? An elder let out a cold bellow directly. Strike. Kill. Some of the elders acted with no hesitation as they gathered their daunting energy and slashed at both Wang Xian and Roving Sword. Retreat. Some of the supreme talents on the stage were aghast as they ducked to one side with trepidation. When all the elders of 3 immortal sects struck together, it brought about a devastating scene. Gosh, that Dragon King actually came from the real world, and so did Roving Sword. Roving Sword is so strong that he can kill 4 elders in one move. Even Ao Shuan too. He was directly slain. That's too fast. Dragon King was the one who killed those 15 budding realm experts on Yongchang Tower half a month ago. This is simply insane. They are from the real world, but isn't the real world experiencing the age of Dharma decline? How come Dragon King and Roving Sword are so strong? Why? Over hundreds of thousands of disciples were shouting with disbelief below. They witnessed daunting oppression erupted from 60-odd elders, shrouding the entire area over a span of more than 10 kilometers. Kill the Dragon King. Let's go and kill him. Damn. At this time, all the experts were glowering at Wang Xian with murderous intent from below. They were the experts from a dozen families. In a brief moment, more than a dozen budding realm experts rose to the sky and lurched at Wang Xian with an immense amount of killing intent. Boom! Dozens of elders struck at the same time in the sky. Daunting inferno, water swords, and metallic swords were looming over Wang Xian. Instantly, all the domineering energy landed on the stage at the peak. The entire stage on the peak exploded under the domineering attack. The stage that was 1,000 meters tall was utterly destroyed. He's dead. I bet he's dead since more than dozens experts struck at the same time. Their power would be sufficient to bring down the sky. Back at the bottom, those disciples commented with shocked looks. Their eyes widened when they witnessed such terrifying attacks. It was terrifying for the Dragon King and Roving Sword from the real world to become the elders of Dahong Immortal Sect and the most invincible young generation of Yongchang. A pity that they were too brazen to kill our people. Even though we killed him, the strength of the Dragon King and Roving Sword were good enough to stun us. Their talents were beyond imagination. Good that they're dead. They made our talents pale in comparison within a short period. What a great talent! Chapter 616. Wait while I kill them. 3. Several hundreds of thousands of disciples mumbled to themselves while staring at the chaotic area. Dead. The two of them must be dead by now. The group of supreme talents hid themselves 1,000 meters above the ground. At this moment, Gu Wen's expression softened a little. He felt extremely embarrassed after being defeated by Roving Sword in 2 moves. However, fear gripped him when he saw Roving Sword killing 4 elders and Ao Shuwen with a single strike. He's too strong. What he just displayed was even stronger and more terrifying than when he fought with me. Will they die? Xiao Xiao stared intensely below her and mumbled, "The Dragon King is just like he was in the real world. Incomparably arrogant with no regard for anyone. That's the real world, and we are in Yongchang world now. There's no need to fear the Dragon King. Even if he's a real dragon, we will subdue him here." Jin Jian stared below him and excitement flashed across his eyes. That's right. How dare they kill the people from Yongchang world? They deserve death. Guwen grinned hideously. Once the Dragon King and Roving Sword were dead, he would still be the strongest supreme talent in Yongchang world and the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects. Boom! However, a terrifying golden longsword slashed across from the center of the explosion. The golden longsword turned darker and extended to 1,000 meters as it slashed ahead. What? They aren't dead yet? Dodge. Dodge immediately. When the surrounding elders from the 3 immortal sects saw the sudden appearance of the terrifying longsword, they shouted out loud. No. However, the golden longsword slashed across in an instant. Next, several elders fell towards the ground without even having the time to scream out in pain. What a terrifying attack. He is at least at the half-step to immortal realm. Kill. Everyone attack him together. The elders of the 3 immortal sects were astonished and shouted loudly. I had no intention to kill anyone initially. However, with things as such, let's kill to our heart's content. Haha, Yongchang world? So what? Wang Xian looked across the elders who were charging towards him and broke into hysterical laughter. Kill. Roving Sword, who was standing beside him, moved. Dustless, soundless, breathless, shadowless, traceless, merciless. Voices without any emotion reverberated as Roving Sword's longsword slashed across and penetrated the various terrifying attacks approaching him. That terrifying golden longsword pierced through the bodies of 6 elders frighteningly. What? Without making a sound, the 6 elders fell towards the ground. What? How can this be possible? An elder shouted in fear as his eyes widened in disbelief. 6 strikes and 6 elders had fallen. Merciless swordsmanship. He has made huge improvements in his merciless swordsmanship once again. The great elder of Immortal Slaying Sect shouted with a horrified expression. Attack them together. Within a short period of time, Roving Sword had killed 10 elders. This had instilled fear in the hearts of all the elders of the 3 immortal sects. If they allowed him to continue attacking, their group wouldn't be sufficient for Roving Sword to kill. Moreover, what worried them the most was that the Dragon King hadn't made a move. If it was just as Xiao Xiao had mentioned, Roving Sword was just a subordinate of the Dragon King. The Supreme Talents could feel their scalps go numb from fear after seeing Roving Sword killing 4 elders with a single strike. This was followed closely by killing another 6 elders with 6 moves of merciless swordsmanship. Moreover, the attacks from their elders towards the Dragon King were easily stopped by the surrounding water energy. The strength of the 2 of them had shaken them to their cores. If they were to fight Wang Xian and Roving Sword, they would have been killed instantly. The group of Supreme Talents couldn't help but retreat further. Grand Pyro Technique, Sword Explosion, Merciless Sword. Terrifying energies were released from the elders of the 3 immortal sects. The next instant, terrifying battle techniques with catastrophic might were launched towards Wang Xian and Roving Sword. One could tell how horrifying the attacks from over 50 budding realm experts were easily from how the colors of the sky had changed. Even the surrounding atmosphere was exploding. Sword Alps. Seeing the attacks approaching him, Wang Xian smiled faintly and 5 long swords appeared around him. Every sword was a piece of level 12 spiritual equipment. As the long swords rotated, the illusory image of Sword Alps appeared and shrouded Wang Xian within. Sword break. Roving Sword was unmoved by the attacks as he swung the long sword in his hand. Several broken swords appeared around him and met the terrifying energy of the approaching attacks. Boom! Explosions reverberated across. However, what embarrassed the crowd was that the blinding blue and golden light were still shining dazzlingly. Return sword. Roving Sword shouted emotionlessly, and long swords formed around him. Shit, they are too strong. Avoid his long swords. The great elder of the immortal slaying sect shouted. The expressions on the surrounding elders changed drastically. 2 people went against more than 60 elders and were able to kill 11. Is this even possible? Oh gosh, the elders are on the losing end. How can the 2 of them be so strong? How could 2 people from the world experiencing the age of Dharma decline be so strong? Hundreds of thousands of disciples were watching the terrifying battle in the air with shock and fear. Based on the information gathered by the Yong Immortal Sect, shouldn't the martial artists in the real world be trash? However, what was happening before them seemed to suggest that the martial artists from the real world were all ferocious and mighty beasts. Shit. At this instant, they saw Roving Sword slash and attack several elders with his long sword once again. Merciless swordsmanship was considered the strongest sword technique by the Immortal Slaying Sect. Once it was used, there would be experts dying. How dare you kill in my Yong Chang? Do you know your sins? Ka. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice reverberated from afar. A blinding ball of fire fell on those longswords directly, disintegrating them. Sect leader Hong Yin. Hong Yin, Excellency. When the elders of the 3 immortal sects heard this voice, excitement beamed in their eyes as they greeted respectfully. A figure appeared before the eyes of everyone as though he had teleported in instantly. The illusory figure materialized gradually into a middle-aged man wearing a full suit of red armor. From him, one could sense a warming sensation. He was also emitting a faint glow and personified the holiness of a sun. He stared at Wang Xian and Roving Sword nonchalantly with spiritual equipment that resembled a sun above his head. Hong Yin, Immortal Realm Expert. Sect leader, these 2 outsiders killed over 10 elders. Half a month ago, they also killed 15 budding realm experts. An elder from Yongchang Immortal Sect glowered at Wang Xian with hatred and reported this information. Hong Yin, Excellency, this man joined our Immortal Slaying Sect with ill intentions. Can we kindly ask for your help to cleanse the scourge from our sect? An elder from Immortal Slaying Sect bowed immediately and asked, For killing so many experts from our Yongchang world, their sins warrant their deaths. Hong Yin nodded his head nonchalantly and raised a finger. Chapter 617. Wait while I kill them. 4. Pyrocell. The voice that seemed to have passed through the void sounded again as Hong Yin stretched out his finger and pointed at Wang Xian and Roving Sword. Pyrocell. The moment his voice was heard, flames that shone like sunlight encircled Wang Xian and Roving Sword immediately. The flames slowly blended together, forming a 3-meter-tall flaming cage. There were no flames rising from the entire flaming cage, as the domineering red and gold fire had already coagulated into a real solid cage. Pyrocell, SSS, this is the usual means of an immortal. They saw the immortal trapping the duo with a cage that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. All the surrounding elders revealed a surprised look. 2 tricky enemies were now easily trapped by the Immortal Excellency. This was the mightiness of an immortal, a daunting power. Hong Yin, Excellency, I propose killing them right away. Since they killed so many of our men, we cannot let them off. Yes, kill them all. One by one, the elders exclaimed. They glowered at Wang Xian and Roving Sword with eyes full of killing intent. Someone from the age of Dharma decline has actually caused you people to be so passive. All of you should practice hard in the future because Chang is going to descend into the real world, said Hong Yin nonchalantly to them with a slight dissatisfying tone. Yes, Hong Yin Excellency is right. The elders hurriedly responded with respect. Hong Yin nodded impassively as he looked at Wang Xian and Roving Sword. Without any emotion in his voice, he said, "Great talents. You are the unparalleled talents even in Yongchang world, but you should not kill people over here. Since you have killed someone over here, bear the consequences now. Hong Yin Excellency is going to strike." Phew, luckily our sect leader came here in time. Otherwise, who knows how many lives we were going to lose just to kill them off. The two of them were too wickedly strong. However, our sect leader will surely kill them off easily if he strikes. Upon hearing the words from Hong Yin Excellency, all the elders were slightly relieved. Phew, finally the Dragon King is going to be killed. No matter how demon-like the people from the real world are, they will get sanctioned for being insolent in Yongchang world. Hong Yin Excellency is simply too strong. A finger of his can kill the Dragon King and Roving Sword. Those disciples below who saw this also heaved a sigh of relief. The scene of Roving Sword killing their elders was too horrifying. As such, they let out a sigh of relief when the group of supreme talents saw that the immortal expert was here. Now, they had developed a fear for Dragon King and Roving Sword. Is that so? Wang Xian looked at the Hong Yin who overlooked them, ready to sentence them. Wang Xian curved his lips slightly. He was an immortal, the first one that he had met. His mouth quirked slightly as he stared at Hong Yin. "I would really like to find out the consequences," Wang Xian said as he looked at Roving Sword. "Stop him while I kill a few more people." "Yes, Dragon King." Roving Sword respectfully nodded. "You're already the meat on the plate." When an elder heard what Wang Xian said, he replied with coldness and disdain. However, his voice came to an abrupt halt. In the eyes of many, the pyrocell around Wang Xian collapsed straight away. The one that was trapping Roving Sword also crashed directly. Blue water energy and a golden metal virtual image appeared around them. Blue, the sacred color, gold, the noble color, the colors that could compete with the sun slowly rose from their bodies. Feng, Ao, Dong, the Yang family. Well, before I go, I'll destroy you guys first. Wang Xian startled everyone with his nonchalant voice. Upon seeing the collapsing pyrocell, solemnness swept across the calm-looking face of Hong Yin. "Stop moving." Roving Sword held his longsword up and pointed it at Hong Yin. It was just a simple action, but what shocked everyone the most was all the long metallic swords in all directions turned to Hong Yin. Each of the swords contained fearsome energy. What's going on? An elder could not help but shiver as he stared at Wang Xian and Roving Sword in disbelief. "Immortal realm, I didn't expect that you two could advance to the immortal realm." As soon as Hong Yin spoke, he looked stern. He stole a few glances at the long swords around him, and the sword radiance struck a slight terror in him. He looked at Wang Xian again, and the blue energy that was similar to sun rays glowing from behind him. The domineering power in it caused his expression to turn dreadful. Great waterfall water shockwave. Before anyone could react, the horrifying energy burst out from Wang Xian's body immediately. As a pivot in the center, the daunting water region spread out at a fascinating speed. In an instant, the great waterfall water shockwave shrouded an area with a radius of 10 kilometers. All the people around, including the hundreds of thousands of disciples from the 3 immortal sects, were encompassed by the great waterfall water shockwave. No. Yet, the one comment that Hong Yin made struck horror in all the elders and disciples from the 3 immortal sects. As they watched the water region besieging them, fear welled up in their eyes. Great waterfall water shockwave, the high-class battle techniques that only those in the immortal class can release. He's an immortal. Roving Sword is also an immortal. He has locked onto Hong Yin Excellency. Everyone felt like they were being thrown off into a fugue state. Now that they were amid the water region, only Hong Yin Excellency was holding their ground. Yet, He was being locked onto by the surrounding longswords. Even the immortal class Hong Yin Excellency was locked onto and dared not act recklessly. This struck fear into them. Great waterfall water shockwave. We're actually within the attack range of an immortal. Gosh, both of them are immortals. No wonder they could easily kill the elders. Since we're amid the water region of an immortal, it would be just too easy for him to kill us all. When the hundreds of thousands of disciples realized they had entered the water region, their bodies trembled even though the water did not attack them. But the oppression from an immortal caused a sense of worship to surge from within them. Their lives were completely in the hands of the Dragon King. A Dragon King who had come from the real world was an immortal class existence. Hong Yin peered around as he saw all the disciples from 3 major immortal sects were shrouded by great waterfall water shockwave. His face grimaced. Don't be reckless. Hong Yin stared at Wang Xian with a sullen look. Otherwise, you'll not walk out of Yongchang. Don't worry. I'll leave after I kill some people. Does the immortal of Yongchang world agree with this? As Wang Xian scorned, the 5 long swords beside him began to spin. He swept his gaze across everyone. I'm the Dragon King of the Dragon Sect from the real world. Let me give you a piece of advice. When Yongchang world descends into the real world, keep a low profile and don't offend me. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family, step forward to receive your judgment. Chapter 618. Return 1. I'm the Dragon King of the Dragon Sect from the real world. Let me give you a piece of advice. When Yongchang world descends into the real world, keep a low profile and don't offend me. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family, step forward to receive your judgment. Wang Xian's voice reverberated across a radius of 10 kilometers as he stared coldly at the people before him. Rumble. At the same instant he spoke, a terrifying water shockwave appeared in the sky above the entire water region. That catastrophic energy sent chills down the spines of all disciples and elders from the 3 immortal sects. Hong Yin stared harshly at Wang Xian and Roving Sword. However, he was fearful of taking action. There were several hundreds of thousands of disciples around, and most of them had not even reached the inborn realm. If he had taken action, their attacks would have caused the deaths of these hundreds of thousands of disciples. These disciples formed the foundation of Yongchang world, and he was fearful of wrecking it. Around Wang Xian, everyone was extremely solemn and didn't dare to say a word. They stared at Wang Xian and Roving Sword with fear and trepidation. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family, step forward now. Wang Xian's emotionless voice sounded once again. He looked across the crowd and found that no one was responding. Boom! Wang Xian waved his arm, and the terrifying water shockwave charged towards the elders of the Immortal Slaying Sect. No! The 20-odd elders of Immortal Slaying Sect were astonished and immediately fled with horror. Bam! Bam! Yet, that unmatched energy still fell on the bodies of 5 elders. Instant total annihilation. While they were in the region of the terrifying Great Waterfall water shockwave, their bodies couldn't withstand terrifying attacks from an immortal. If no one is stepping forward, I'll just have to kill everyone here. Wang Xian looked emotionlessly across the crowd and remarked coldly. No, no. Wang Xian's words had instilled greater fear into the crowd. Immortal. They were now facing an immortal. Moreover, there were 2 of them. If the 2 of them wished to kill them, they would be able to do so with just a wave of their hands. Those from these families step forward right now. Don't implicate others. An elder from Yongchang Immortal Sect spoke bitterly and softly. Looking at the circumstances, it was clear that the Dragon King would want to kill those from these families. Since they had offended the immortal, they had to pay the price. No, no, don't kill us. Don't kill us. At this moment, those from the Feng family, Ao family, and 10 other forces could feel the gazes from the surrounding crowd. Instantly, desperation filled their faces. They would have never expected that they would still be killed when Hong Yin Excellency was around. The members from these 10-odd forces were filled with despair. They had offended an immortal, the terrifying immortal. Boom! At this moment, the entire sky was dyed red. This created a stark contrast with the blue water region that spanned 10 kilometers. Above the water region, two figures stood like blinding suns in the air. Yong, Eclipse. Hong Yin lifted his head and saw the two figures forming in the sky. He instantly shouted. Two other immortals from Chang Immortal Sect had appeared. Yong Excellency and Eclipse Excellency are here. Two more immortals are here. We are saved. We are saved. We have 3 immortals on our side. The Dragon King and Roving Sword would definitely dare not make a move now. 3 immortals against 2. Things are going to get tough for the Dragon King and his subordinate. With other immortals from our Chang world here, even the Dragon King and Roving Sword will die in this place. The Dragon King and Roving Sword have to die. Seeing the appearance of the 2 immortals, those from the 10-odd families were beaming with excitement. The appearance of the 2 excellencies would mean that they wouldn't have to die. The 2 of them stood in the sky and stared right at Wang Xian and Roving Sword with solemn expressions. Are you the Dragon King? Let's end this here and not push it too far. A figure stared at Wang Xian and commented coldly, Haha. I'll stop right after I kill those I want to kill. Seeing the arrival of the 2 immortals, Wang Xian laughed out loud and waved his arm. Within the great waterfall water shockwave, terrifying water shockwaves were launched towards various people. A while ago, he could roughly verify who were from these 10-odd families through the eyes of the rest. What? No. Yong Excellency. Eclipse Excellency. Save us. Save us. The disciples from these 10-odd families were filled with despair, and they cried for help in horror. When the 2 figures saw the Dragon King continuing to attack, they frowned and were clearly discontented. They couldn't stop and wouldn't be able to. Around them, several hundreds of thousands of disciples watched the development with fear. Despite the arrival of 2 other immortals, the Dragon King still did what he wanted. This was undoubtedly equivalent to taunting their entire Chang world. Haha, it's been close to 2 months since I came into Chang. It's about time for me to return. Let's meet again in the real world. After the water shockwave, Wang Xian laughed out loud and looked across the 3 immortals. Let's go, he shouted at Roving Sword. The next instant, both of them turned illusory and flew towards the east at incredible speed. Remember my warning. When you enter the real world, keep a low profile. The Dragon King's voice reverberated through the sky. The great waterfall water shockwave dissipated, and the despondent atmosphere was gone. They have headed east. The spirit array in that direction is the weakest. It would appear that they wanted to head out. The attacks of the current spirit array would simply damage them severely and not kill them. The voices of the 3 immortals sounded, and the 3 of them stared bitterly in the direction where Wang Xian and Roving Sword had fled in. The spirit array has been broken and they have left. After 10 seconds of silence, the fire sparks that were flickering in Hong Yan's eyes disappeared and he commented. Yong and Eclipse remained silent and looked across the disciples below them. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, figure after figure arrived at incredible speed. What's the matter? Why were there immortal-level attacks coming from here a while ago? Hong Yin, what happened? The other 3 figures stood in the sky, frowning as they asked these questions. There were 2 immortals from the outside world. One of them is called the Dragon King, while the other was Roving Sword. They killed some of our people. Hong Yin remarked as his eyes flickered. The next moment, he gestured to Xiao Xiao. Uncle Yin. Xiao Xiao flew over and greeted him softly. Immortals from the real world? There are still immortals from the real world? The other 3 men were shocked. Greetings, uncles. Those 2 have likely advanced to the immortal realm in our world. Xiao Xiao bowed at the group of immortals and reported respectfully. Fear and respect filled her eyes. Advancing to the immortal realm in our world? The rest of the immortals were taken aback and had their attention fixed on Xiao Xiao. Yep, Xiao Xiao nodded her head before continuing. I saw him when I went to the real world. His name is Wang Xian, and he should be 21 years old in the current year. He has risen in an exceptionally short period of time and established the sacred sect, Dragon Sect, in the real world. Chapter 619, Return 2. Along with his Dragon Sect, he has struck fear into all the families and clans in the entire Underworld. The entire alliance of the orthodox sects and diabolism did not dare to offend him. He even went up against the strongest sect in the Underworld, Donghua Sacred Sect, and killed dozens of their experts. According to what I know, his way of doing things is overbearing. He will not let anyone off for offending him. Moreover, his strength is powerful. During the fighting between the Orthodox sect and diabolism, the Dragon King brought a troop that was almost on par with Orthodox sects and diabolism. He even fought with the supreme experts from the Orthodox sects and diabolism and entered Yong Chang by chance. The two middle-aged men that my father saved not long ago were the supreme experts from the Orthodox sects and diabolism, said Xiao Xiao to the rest of immortals. Recalling the Dragon King of Dragon Sect's doings in the Underworld, she was very shocked. Especially the immortal class strength that he had displayed just now struck horror into her. His talent was really unparalleled. 21. An immortal cried out as he widened his eyes with disbelief. 21-year-old immortal? What concept is this? Most of them had lived for centuries before they stumbled on opportunities to advance to the immortal realm. Yet, the Dragon King was only 21 years old. Such talent was beyond description. Yes, 21 years old. No one in the real world dared to offend him. Both orthodox sects and diabolism are wary and fearful of him. Xiao Xiao nodded her head with force. Greetings to sect leader and your excellencies. At this time, the elders of 3 immortal sects flew over and bowed to him with respect. Sect leader, that Dragon King was already promoted to blacksmith and alchemy grandmaster just a few days ago. The great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect said to one of the immortals in astonishment. Blacksmith and alchemy grandmaster. That immortal's eyes gleamed, and he exchanged a glance with an immortal beside him with eyes filled with disbelief. I didn't think that there would be such a wicked existence in the real world. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect, said Hong Yin slowly. No matter how stunning he is, they only had 2 immortals. Given the strength of Yong Chang, they would have surely perished here if they had not fled, said Eclipse with a darkened expression, recalling the overbearing nature and arrogance of Wang Xian. Forget it. Having 2 people from the real world who could advance to the immortal realm was already terrifying enough. It looks like we have to be careful when we meet Dragon Sect. After Yong Chang descends into the real world, let's stay low profile. The moment all the 9 Cauldrons worlds descend into the real world, there will be conflicts and combat is inevitable. Let's wait for Yong Chang to descend into the real world. The immortals remarked one by one as they looked down at the hundreds of thousands of disciples below. With a quick change of stance, they took turns and disappeared. Upon hearing the conversations between the immortals, the disciples of the 3 major immortal sects below were dumbfounded and horrified. 21-year-old immortal. He set up a sacred sect in the real world to go up against the entire underworld. A grandmaster in blacksmith and alchemy. On top of that, the terrifying roving sword was known as the rare swordsmanship genius in immortal slaying sect for the last 10,000 years. Everything added up to their disbelief. Such a domineering figure actually existed in the age of Dharma decline, a world with trashy combat power. For a moment, everyone darkened their expressions. It looks like even when Yong Chang descends to the real world, into the age of Dharma decline, we should not act overly brazen. Those disciples who were ready to enter the real world and make their names suddenly lost motivation. The grand contest of 3 major immortal sects was still ongoing, but all the supreme talents were filled with bitterness. Cough, this injury will take at least a few days to recover. At this moment, Wang Xian could not help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. He wiped it off from his pale-looking face, tens of thousands of meters in the air. Roving Sword, beside him, was also covered by injuries. However, their injuries were not serious since they had prepared for it. Upon tearing the array apart, Wang Xian turned into a divine dragon straightaway to block off the majority of the array damage. Finally, we're out. It's been almost 2 months. Sensing the sparse spiritual energy in the surroundings, Wang Xian felt a sense of belonging instead. He looked down with a smile. The concrete buildings in the city and the bustling roads. Even though it was no different compared to Yongchang World, it felt very familiar to him. I don't know where we are now, but it must be a city below. Let's go down, confirm our location, and get ready to go back. Wang Xian was beaming. With a quick movement, the two of them appeared on a road as if they had teleported. The cars were passing by around them, and Wang Xian spotted a sign. One city is not that far from Donghua Sacred Sect. It's about an 8-hour journey, and it would be faster if we fly over. Wang Xian looked at the time, and it was noon. I wonder if Shu Qing, Qingyue, Xiaoyu, and Ajaya missed me. After all, they might have been worried about me while I wasn't around. Wang Xian smiled. Xiaoyu, Shu Qing, and the rest might have been worried after he entered Yongchang World, but they would not be too sad about it. With the Dragonians and Ajaya around, they would know that he was still alive. This could make them less worried. Let's buy a phone and take a flight back. Wang Xian told Roving Sword and walked into a shop that collected gold. They sold some gold left in the space ring and bought a phone. Let's give them a call. Wang Xian revealed a broad smile and dialed Xiaoyu on her phone. Her? How come no one is answering? Wang Xian slightly frowned and called Guan Shuqing, then Lan Qinghua one after another. But no one was picking up their phones. What are they doing? Wang Xian was doubtful as he headed to a less populated street, ready to fly back to River Town. Haha, today, our sect leader and Emperor Qi of Diabolism will be leading the sacred sects to River Town. This time, Dragon Sect is going to be annihilated. Yes, that's great. Remember the time when the Dragon King and his gang were so arrogant a month ago? Now that Dragon King is dead, and the sect leader is back, he is going to work with Emperor Qi to annihilate the Dragon Sect. I wanted to go over today. Unfortunately, my cultivation level is too low, and we can only read the news on the Underworld forum. I heard that all the confidants of the Dragon King are very beautiful. TSK. Diabolism has already said it. They want all the people who are related to the Dragon King to suffer big time. Haha. I guess the confidants of his will be tortured by the people of Diabolism. Brother Liu, do you think they are more beautiful than me? How can they be prettier than Nan? Haha, don't bother comparing yourself with those people who are ruined. Just as Wang Xian arrived on a remote street, several young guys and girls were sitting in a convertible car, laughing and exchanging conversations. They were gloating at the misfortune of others. Chapter 620 Return of the Dragon King 1. Our sect leader and Emperor Qi have returned as rulers. Now that the alliance of orthodox sects and Diabolism have allied together, this underworld will be our underworld. That's right. The Dragon Sect was just a fleeting existence after all. Several young men were smoking while conversing joyously. Bam! At this moment, a pair of huge hands fell heavily on the car beside them suddenly. Fuck! The group got a scare and exclaimed, "Who the hell did this?" The disciples from Donghua Sacred Sect turned their heads over and stared harshly. Nya Wushuang and Emperor Qi are back? They have gone to annihilate the Dragon Sect? Wang Xian's emotionless voice sounded beside their ears. When they saw Wang Xian, they were taken aback and started observing him cautiously. After close to 2 months, Wang Xian's hair had grown a little longer. As he had advanced to level 9, his disposition had also changed. There was innate holiness and a majestic aura around him. Fuck. Who are you? How dare you call our sect leader by his name? Are you too eager to die? Damn. Do you know who owns the world currently? The young disciple couldn't recognize Wang Xian. They glowered at Wang Xian as they scolded him. Wang, speak. Wang Xian waved his arm at two young men, and boiling water that was a scorching hot temperature surrounded the two young men. He stared at the young man who had remained silent all this while and questioned him. You. Just as that young man wanted to speak, he saw his other two companions turning into a pool of blood creepily. His eyes widened, and he stared at Wang Xian with fear. You. Arg. At the other end, several girls shrieked in fear as they hid in the car. Speak? Killing intent welled up in Wang Xian gradually and shrouded towards the young man. Feeling the grip around his throat from a devil that seemed to be from the abyss, that young man shivered violently. Yes, our sect leader returned a short while ago. Today, they are bringing a group to Rivertown to annihilate the dragon sect. Big brother, don't kill me. Don't. Who would have expected Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi to still be alive? Furthermore, they allied together to annihilate my dragon sect. Great. Wang Xian's face turned solemn, and the killing intent leaking from his body even solidified the surrounding atmosphere. That young man's expression turned as white as snow, and a pool of liquid dripped down from his pants. It seems like someone is courting his own death again. Wang Xian grumbled softly, and frenzied killing intent flashed across his eyes. If you guys dare to touch Xiaoyu and the rest, I'll send the entire underworld to hell to accompany them. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted, and Wang Xian's figure disappeared towards the edges of the sky. Roving Sword followed closely behind. The young man that survived the ordeal stared in shock at the two disappearing men. His eyes widened and were filled with fear. That back view is so familiar. Could it be the Dragon King? He must be. He definitely is. The young man shouted loudly like a maniac. He looked beside him. A while ago, he had two other senior brothers. Now, he had no one with him. Nothing was left of them. That terrifying strength and that familiar back view had to be Dragon King's. Shit. He said if anything were to happen, he would send the entire underworld to hell. Following this, the young man took out his phone immediately and entered the Underworld website. Today, the Underworld was exceptionally lively. The return of the kings. Nie Wuxiang together with Emperor Qi from Diabolism and several other sacred sects had reached an agreement to annihilate the Dragon Sect. Today, the Dragon Sect would definitely be annihilated. All those who were related to the Dragon King would also definitely be killed. Today was the first time the alliance of orthodox sects would work with Diabolism to eradicate the arrogant Dragon Sect. Now that the Dragon King was dead, the Dragon Sect should definitely be annihilated. Kill everyone from the Dragon Sect. Kill the kin of the Dragon King. Haha. Spare no one. The Dragon King from the Dragon Sect has killed countless experts from Diabolism. Today, we will let the Dragon Sect experience what is worse than death. Several threads were refreshed frantically on the Underworld website. All the martial artists in the Underworld were exhilarated. A few days earlier, the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect and Emperor Qi of Diabolism had returned. After their return, they announced instantly that the feud between the alliance of orthodox sects and Diabolism shall be forgiven. Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace even announced that they would be merging into one eternal sacred sect. Countless incidents were shocking the entire underworld. 2 months ago, the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect and a swordsman fought with Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. In the end, the four of them broke the sky and seemed to have entered a different world. A few days earlier, they returned officially to make shocking news. The alliance of orthodox sects and Diabolism had put aside their feud, Donghua Sacred Sect merging with Devil Corpse Palace. Each of these incidents had shocked the entire underworld. This morning, they announced they would be annihilating the Dragon Sect. This matter instantly electrified various forces. The strength of the Dragon Sect was too terrifying. It was to the point that they were fearful of the Dragon Sect. Even when the Dragon King wasn't around, they were still frightened by the current Dragon Sect. Annihilating the Dragon Sect was what various sacred sects would like to see. The Dragon King is dead. Dragon Sect will definitely be annihilated. The young man saw the hottest thread. There were also a large number of replies in this thread. The thread clearly indicated that the Dragon King was dead and the Dragon Sect had lost the strength to retaliate. They would definitely be annihilated. The one who had started the thread even made it clear that it was sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi who personally claimed that the Dragon King was dead. Fuck. The Dragon King isn't dead. He's not fucking dead at all. Moreover, he's even more terrifying than before. I definitely have to inform other members of my sect now. The young man's expression turned solemn, and he felt like his world was spinning. He immediately called several numbers. However, no one picked up the call. Could they be on their way to annihilate the Dragon Sect? The young man's face turned white and despair was creeping up on him. The Dragon King wasn't dead. If the Dragon Sect were to be annihilated, the Underworld would be finished. This won't do. I've got to spread the news on the Underworld and inform everyone that the Dragon King isn't dead. The young man started editing the thread before sending it to the Underworld website. The Dragon King has returned. He's not dead yet. Moreover, he's even more terrifying than before. Although he had started the thread, there wasn't any interest. Even if there were comments, most people wouldn't believe it. The death of the Dragon King was confirmed by sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. SK. So what if he isn't dead? Even if the Dragon King were to show himself in Rivertown at this moment, he would have to die. At this moment, he was taken aback by a reply he saw. It was a link to another thread. Live streaming of the annihilation of the Dragon Sect. He clicked on the thread and browsed through quickly. When he saw the latest few replies, his face stiffened. The strongest experts that are leading the annihilation of the Dragon Sect aren't sect leader Nie Wuxiang or Emperor Qi. They are 4 old men who are far stronger than sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. Even if the Dragon King is still alive, the Dragon Sect will definitely be annihilated this time. The Dragon King would also meet his end. For old men that are even more terrifying than sect leader, those 4 old men. The young man was dumbfounded and frowned. He recalled the moment several days ago when he had caught a glimpse of the sect leader. Sect leader only allied with diabolism after he returned from that world. Could it be? There are 4 other characters that are even stronger than our sect leader. In other words, even if the Dragon King has the guts to return, he would also be killed. Haha, this is great. Perfect. Dragon King, how dare you kill my senior brothers? You shall die too. Sending the entire underworld to hell? You can head there yourself. Recalling the peaks and valleys of his life, the young man couldn't help but burst into laughter with a sinister grin. Chapter 621. Return of the Dragon King 2. Nie Wuxiang, Emperor Qi. Coldness filled the eyes of Wang Xian in the sky as he headed to Rivertown at a super rapid speed. 20 minutes. Xiaoyu, Shuqing, Qingyue, wait for me for another 20 minutes. Chillness welled in Wang Xian's eyes as he murmured softly to himself. At this time, Rivertown. On this day, all the attention of the underworld was on Rivertown, where sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi from Diabolism made a robust return. In particular, the 2 supreme experts returned in an alliance instead of fighting with each other. The moment they united, the Lord of the entire underworld was formed. The sacred sect that they jointly formed was known as Eternal Sacred Sect. Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace did not merge completely as Eternal Sacred Sect, but Eternal Sacred Sect consisted of these 2 sections. In other words, Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace had become the sub-ancestral sects of Eternal Sacred Sect. Subsequently, Devil Spirit's Temple and the rest of the factions in Diabolism had joined the Eternal Sacred Sect. After that, Dongmin Clan, Dark Sect, Yuan Sacred Clan, and Heavenly Sound Sect joined the Eternal Sacred Sect too. With all the sacred sects joining hands, Eternal Sacred Sect was almost said to have unified the entire underworld. But none of the martial artists knew why Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi had established the Eternal Sacred Sect. They only knew that they were the future overlords of the underworld. This time, Not only were the sacred sects within Eternal Sacred Sect here to annihilate the Dragon Sect, but there were various first-class forces from the Underworld here too. Amongst which, the number of inborn experts was over 400. The rest that were below inborn level hit 6,000 people. Nearly half of the forces of the entire Underworld were here. What a surprise! 2 of the confidants of the Dragon King have advanced to Budding Realm. At this moment, the crowd was packed around the floating island of Bohai, River Town. Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi were staring at the 2 girls with a surprised look. Ajaya and Lan Qingyue were pale as they spat out mouthfuls of fresh blood while staring daggers at Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. Qingyue, Ajaya, Guan Shuqing and Xiaoyu lost color in their faces as they hurriedly rushed to their sides, wiping the blood from their lips with a bitter look. "Are you all right?" Guan Shuqing was looking worried all over as she quickly spun around and cast a cold glance at Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. "Wait till Xiaoxian gets back. He will not let you off for sure." "Haha, the Dragon King? He's already dead. Did you think that he has a chance like our sect leader did?" Standing beside Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi was the insolent Nie Wuya, chuckling. He swept his cold gaze at all of them. It's totally unexpected. Even 2 girls possessed such daunting strength. The Dragon King must have obtained a fearsome legacy. Tell us now, and we'll grant you a quick death. Otherwise, you'll wish you were dead. Hayak. Beside Nie Wuya, a cold middle-aged man continued his words. He had a long tongue, which looked extremely horrifying. "Who said my brother is dead? He's not. Wait till he's back, and none of you will be able to live." Xiaoyu stared furiously at the people in front of her as her cheeks became flushed with anger. Among them, Xiaoyu, Sun Lingxiu, and Elder Fong could at most handle Dan Realm experts. Guan Shuqing was slightly weaker. Only Ajaya and Lan Qingyue could match up to Budding Realm experts. In fact, Lan Qingyue was only at level 11. She could barely fight with a Budding Realm expert. As for Ajaya, she had just obtained a legacy not long ago. As such, she could only combat the average Budding Realm experts. On the other hand, Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi had been advanced to the Budding Realm for quite a long time. After they were rescued by the Immortals and returned to the real world, they were given many elixir pills and a lot of spiritual equipment. Given their current strength, they were almost twice as strong as their initial strength during that battle. Ajaya and Lan Qingyue were trounced by these 2 people. This plunged Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the rest into despair. Even if Dragon King is not dead, and he arrives today, he is bound to die for killing the experts of Donghua Sacred Sect. Today, the Dragon Sect must be annihilated, Nie Wuya shouted with full confidence. Kill the rest of the disciples from Dragon Sect. Leave the sister of the Dragon King and his confidants to us. I'll make sure they spit out the truth. At this time, 2 elders in crimson robes were staring at Xiaoyu, and the rest with one eye filled with crimson bugs. They were the leader and vice-leader of Crimson Bug. Ever since the Dragon King had annihilated all their disciples, they had been trying to seek revenge frantically. Today was their chance. They were going to pay back all the pain to the Dragon King's sister and confidants. I'll turn you people into the most miserable things in the Underworld and make you suffer utterly. Both of them growled, their eyes bloodshot. Let the 6 girls live and kill the rest. Nie Wuya and Emperor Qi gave their commands as they held the weapons in their hands. Yes, surrounding them were Donghua Sacred Sect, Devil Corpse Palace, Heavenly Sound Sect, Dongmin Clan, and the various first-class forces with more than 400 inborn experts. All of them were casting their icy stares at those Dragonians and golden swordfish on the floating island. 400 inborn experts against 200 of them was utter overkill. Kill. Mo Qinglong swept his gaze at all the sacred sects, sacred clans, and the experts. With a bellow, he commanded them, kill them all. Even if we die, our Dragon King will avenge us. Kill. 50 Dragonians had no hesitation as domineering demonic aura surged around them. One by one, the golden swordfish emitted a dazzling radiance. Kill. The roaring of the killings soared in the sky while the war had completely broken out. The real battle has begun, and the Dragon King will be a piece of dead meat. 400 inborn experts against 200 experts. They had double the numbers, and it would be a thrashing game. I did not expect that the two confidants of the Dragon King were actually budding realm experts. This is scary. The Dragon King must have inherited some domineering legacy, such that Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi must lay their hands on it. This time, those confidants are doomed. Look at diabolism. All of them have cruel means. Perhaps they will turn them into corpses, or even something worse than that. It's a good thing that we will annihilate the Dragon Sect. They are simply too powerful. I was scared when the two girls struck just now. They were daunting. Upon seeing the war break out, the surrounding disciples who were weak and not of any help in the battle were exchanging conversations with disbelief. Soon, this war would end with the downfall of Dragon Sect, as Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi were much stronger than before. The fact that the Dragon King of Dragon Sect was dead also sealed the fate of Dragon Sect. Chapter 622, Return of the Dragon King, 3. At this very moment, the news of Nie Wuxiang, Emperor Qi and other forces going to exterminate the Dragon Sect was spreading and updating constantly on the Underworld website. When the martial artists of the Underworld saw the terrifying strength of Ajaya and Lan Qingyue, they were astonished. For two girls to have the strength of supreme experts, the visual and psychological impact on them was immense. The Dragon King definitely obtained some peerless legacy. Otherwise, the Dragon Sect wouldn't have risen so rapidly. His girls wouldn't possess such terrifying strength either. This is really insane. If the Dragon King wasn't dead, the Underworld would be theirs in the future. I believe the annihilation of the Dragon Sect will likely allow many other sacred sects to heave a sigh of relief. On the Underworld website, various martial artists exchanged their views. For those sacred sects and clans that had not headed over to Rivertown, their attention was focused on the Underworld website as they waited for the news confirming the Dragon Sect being annihilated. Arg. Shit. The members of the Dragon Sect are really strong. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Just as the inborn experts from Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace clashed with the 200 members of the Dragon Sect, terrifying charging swords and return swords attacked constantly. The group of golden swordfish killed over 20 inborn experts with their incredible swordsmanship. This stunned the inborn experts from Donghua, Sacred Sect, and Devil Corpse Palace as they growled loudly. Kill. At this moment, the Dragonians dragonified their arms into terrifying dragon claws to attack their enemies directly. They were fearless in the face of death. For the Dragon Sect and the Dragon King, they were willing to sacrifice their lives. At the most critical moments for the Dragon Sect, all the Dragonians unleashed aura that totally disregarded death. Those fearless attacks together with resilient defensive capabilities sent chills down the spines of the 400 inborn experts from Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace. Ajaya, Qingyue, get behind and rest. Guan Shuqing stood up and took a deep breath. Xiao Yu and Elder Fong, who were beside her, were equally pale. The holy goddess, Sun Lingxiu, resembled more of a goddess of frost at this very moment. Attack! Guan Shuqing gritted her teeth and waved the lotus truncheon in her hands. Bunches of fire lotus flowers shot towards the enemies before her. Her attacks seemed limitless, and the terrifying attacks continued incessantly. The destructive force of her attacks astounded the crowd that was watching from afar. Judgment! A white light was emitted from Sun Lingxiu and shot across like rays of aurora beams. Beside her, Miracle Dr. Bloodman stared ahead bitterly as he tried his best to protect her master. Xiao Yu and Elder Fong didn't participate. They were more suited for close-range battles. At this juncture, they had chosen not to charge ahead and had their attention fixed on Emperor Qi and Nie Wuxiang. Around the 6 of them, 2 level 11 golden swordfish were protecting them. If we encounter real danger later, I'll activate the defense array within my truncheon and we will escape together. Ajaya supported her own injured body and struggled to stand upright. Ajaya, we were wrong in the past. Let me apologize to you. If we can get past this calamity, we will be sisters. Lan Qingyue had also stood up by now and held Ajaya softly. In that case, you will have 2 more sisters. Ajaya laughed liberally as she looked at son Lingxiu beside her. Sister Lingxiu is great. Lan Qingyue smiled faintly. She's better than all of you. Ajaya was direct. She smiled before sighing. If I knew about this, I wouldn't have followed him here. Lan Qingyue chuckled and knew that Ajaya was just saying that in a fit of displeasure. That was entirely reasonable. A girl from a foreign country had followed him here. Yet, she didn't even get to see him for the subsequent period. And she had to suffer their cold treatment. Ordinary girls wouldn't have taken such grievances, let alone the fact that she was a princess. I'm sorry, Lan Qingyue said apologetically. She turned to stare at Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi before saying, let's stop the 2 of them together. There is still hope. That's right. Shaoxian's subordinates are really strong. Ajaya looked across the entire battlefield and revealed a smile. The next instant, she turned and looked at Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi coldly. SSS. How could the Dragon Sect be so strong? Close to 40 or 50 inborn experts have died. However, it would seem that none from the Dragon Sect have died. Are you sure? How could the members of the Dragon Sect be so terrifying? It feels like they aren't even on the same fighting level. Even though we have 400 inborn experts on our side, it is not certain that we will be able to defeat the 200 members of the Dragon Sect. Scattered around the battlefield, the crowd was shocked while watching the battles unfolding before their eyes. The battle between 600 inborn experts was truly horrifying and astounding. Yet, after just a minute, they were horrified to see that the inborn experts on their side were killed rapidly. Even though they had twice the number of inborn experts, they were still on the losing end. If the battle continued as it was, the outcome wasn't certain yet. These disciples of Dragon Sect are really problematic. Seeing how the battle had developed, Emperor Qi remarked with a solemn face. Let's get into it and end the battle quickly. Ruthlessness flashed across the eyes of Nie Wuxuang. He waved the spiritual longsword in his hand, and terrifying golden sword energy was launched ahead. Kill! Emperor Qi moved at the same time and attacked a golden swordfish. Now! Seeing that Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi had joined in the fight, Lan Qingyue and Ajaya gritted their teeth and headed towards both of them. Xiao Yu and Elder Fong followed behind resolutely, and the black skeletons on them started extending crazily. Both of you have just lost, and yet you dare to face us again. It seems like I have to cripple both of you completely this time. Nie Wuxuang remarked harshly when he saw Lan Qingyue and Ajaya charging towards him again. This time, we are here too, Xiao Yu growled. Without a tinge of fear, she lunged forward with the bone sword in her hand. TSK, Emperor Qi and Nie Wuxuang snorted and swung their spiritual equipment across. Bam! The spiritual equipment was stopped by Lan Qingyue and the other 3 girls, but they were pushed back. The Dragon Sect is truly pretty strong. They are able to reach the budding realm in this world that is experiencing the age of Dharma decline. Moreover, they are still so young. It would seem like they have inherited some incredibly powerful legacies. It would at least be a mortal-class legacy. Otherwise, they would never have been able to reach such a level. Now that we have descended into the real world ahead of time, we might have a great chance encounter before us. The 4 old men stood by the side and silently watched the battle unfold. All of them had the vibes of being superior to others. When they saw Lan Qingyue and Ajaya, they were pleasantly surprised. Oh gosh, that young girl wasn't injured at all despite being hit by Sect leader Nie Wuxuang. Shit. Sect leader Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi have been held back by the 4 of them, while the 400 inborn experts are being slaughtered rapidly by the 200 members of the Dragon Sect. Could it be? The annihilation of the Dragon Sect will turn out to be... It can't be. This isn't possible. How could the disciples of the Dragon Sect be so powerful? Look at the fire attacks from that girl. She hasn't flinched for a moment at all. Her destructive might is too insane. If this goes on, the 400 inborn experts will be defeated. It can't be. How could it be possible that they can't annihilate the Dragon Sect with such a grand lineup, considering that the Dragon King is already dead? Dragon Sect? How could they be so terrifying? The surrounding crowd could feel their hearts palpitating violently as they watched the battle before them with disbelief. 400 versus 200. Yet, they were being killed rapidly. This had exceeded everyone's expectations. On the Underworld website, all the martial artists were astonished to witness what was on the livestream thread. No one had expected this to happen. Could it be that the annihilation mission of the Dragon Sect will end up in failure this time? Everyone could feel their hearts skip a beat. The Dragon Sect was too strong. Even when considering that the Dragon King had died, the two supreme experts of Sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi, together with 400 inborn experts, still couldn't eradicate the Dragon Sect. That was horrifying. It was especially so for the swordsmen with golden longswords. Their attacks were so insane that the crowd could feel their scalps going numb from fear. A Dan Realm swordsman could even go against two Dan Realm experts and still have the upper hand. What was most shocking was that Emperor Qi and Sect leader Nie were held back temporarily and couldn't join in the fight. Trash. It seems like we have to take action ourselves. At this moment, an old man, who had stood by the side with a sense of superiority, grumbled discontentedly. All right, let's end this quickly so we can interrogate those girls about their legacies. In that case, let's end it. When the bald old man wearing a red suit finished his last word, the group of 4 old men flew ahead. This is the end. The 4 old men commented nonchalantly, and the aura around them strengthened instantly. Rumble. Terrifying fire pillars rose and shot up over 1,000 meters. The 4 flaming pillars altered the entire sky. The auras of the 4 old men were a lot stronger than Emperor Qi and Nie Wuxiang. You guys are really trash. It's just a small dragon sect, and yet you required us to step in, an old man commented plainly. He waved his arm and a wave of terrifying attacks swept towards the Dragonians and Golden Swordfish. Boom. Oh gosh. How terrifying. How terrifying. Behind them, all the martial artists in the underworld that witnessed this were completely dumbfounded. These auras were too strong. Despite being a distance away, they felt suffocated. Those 4 old men. The Dragon Sect is definitely going to be annihilated now. Even if the Dragon King were around, the outcome wouldn't change. The 1,000-meter fire pillars were something that they thought would exist only at the end of the world. Considering the terrifying might, annihilating a Dragon Sect would be a walk in the park. In the opinions of these people, the annihilation of Dragon Sect would still be easy even if the Dragon King were around. Chapter 623, Return of the Dragon King 4. High and mighty. This was the first time the martial artists of the underworld had seen such a terrifying scene. It was also the first time they saw such scary power from the 9 Cauldrons worlds, the 1,000-meter fire pillars, daunting oppression, and the devastating scene. All the momentum and the oppression from it were not something Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi could compare to. The difference was huge. What? Oh no, they actually have such a formidable figure here. The gang, including Xiaoyu, Elder Feng, Lan Qingyue, and Ajaya, who were desperately resisting, lost the color in their faces. Seeing such a domineering aura, a tinge of despair welled up in their eyes. Humph! Both Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi snorted as they swept their cold gazes across all the people in Dragon Sect before they walked back. Boom! The eyes of the 4 elders were like torches with sparks skipping in their eyes when they looked at the battlefield. 200 Dragon Sect disciples against more than 400 inborn experts from their side. However, more than 60 inborn experts had perished within a short period of time, leaving the total number to be less than 400. Humph! There was dissatisfaction in the eyes of an elder as he swung his arm, hurling a ball of fire toward the Dragon Sect disciples. Oh no, get out of the way now. Upon seeing the attack, Imo Qinglong's eyes were burning with fire. The ball of fire that the old man hurled with ease struck 100 meters away. A flaming waterfall-like ball of fire charged toward them directly. All the members of Dragon Sect had a drastic change in their expressions. "Block it down," they roared, raising golden sword defense and daunting dragon claws in front of them. Bam, bam, bam. But still, that fiery magma exploded like a waterfall in an instant, killing dozens of golden swordfish right at the front. Painful looks crawled upon their faces while their bodies slowly changed from human to golden swordfish, burning under the intense flame as they turned a charcoal black. A casual hit from that old man had brought down these forces of the Dragon Sect. Seeing more than a dozen Dragon Sect members lose their lives instantly, Imo Qinglong was aghast as he spun his head around. Noticing the gray branch was still giving off radiance on the floating island, he heaved a sigh of relief. "Go on. Dragon King will be back to avenge us." Imo Qinglong growled with a hideous look. At this point, none of them could escape. Perhaps the Golden Swordfish clan could jump into the ocean for a way out, but they would not run. They were with the Dragon King of Dragon Sect. Kill. The Dragonians and Golden Swordfish clan went berserk. Instantly, all their aura and vitality erupted completely, darting straight into the sky. "Follow me. Charge." A level 11 Dan Realm expert from the Golden Swordfish clan remained expressionless. In the face of death, his eyes only held golden coldness. Sorrowless, joyless, selfless, invincible. Golden Swordfish. Pierce. Piercing through with their bodies was their natural instinct as Golden Swordfish clan. When they used to be fish, their most potent attack was to sprint. Even though they had learned swordsmanship, their piercing move remained their most potent attack. Piercing with their bodies. Buzz. One by one, the bodies of the Golden Swordfish suspended themselves in the air. As though they were in the ocean, they brought along their daunting radiance, charging at the 300-odd inborn experts right before them. They knew that attacking the four elders was utterly useless. Hence, they could only attack those at the same level as them. How dare you even try to strike before us? Seeing the Golden Swordfish clan readying their attacking stance, there was contempt in his eyes as he waved, calling, "Karma Flame." Boom boom. As soon as the old man's voice resounded, the ground below the Golden Swordfish exploded into cracks. Scary flames sprouted out from underground, erupting into a blazing fire. This is crazy. Are they the legendary gods? Just a simple wave, and they could bring destruction to the world. It's not too far-fetched to say that they are the legendary immortals. Just a wave, and they brought destruction to heaven and earth. With a swing, they could annihilate anything. They are the legendary immortals. I have a strange feeling about those four people. Sect leader Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi have been respectful to them. The newly established Eternal Sacred Sect is also led by the four of them. All the sect leaders of sacred sects have been very respectful to them. Could it be that they are from the other worlds? After sect leader Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi entered into another world, the four of them suddenly showed up beside them. All the surrounding crowd watched the four people with horror as they discussed among themselves. An arm swing could change the world, and that impact was so scary, as though it was from the legendary immortal. In the face of these four elders, they felt as insignificant as ants. That bunch of Dragon Sect members is really fearless. They actually continued to charge forward. Gosh, the members of Dragon Sect have gone mad. But soon, they will be annihilated. All the people were horrified as they looked ahead in shock. Over there, more than hundreds of Dragon Sect members exuded golden radiance with a blazing fire, charging ahead ferociously. Their speed was so terrifying that even the experts of their same level were not able to resist. Oh no! Those inborn experts who felt relieved and were ready for a show were aghast upon seeing the dauntless Dragon Sect members. "Take cover!" they yelled loudly. However, the Golden Swordfish were bent on giving up their lives. Even when their bodies were shrouded with karma flame, their attacks did not stop. Her. The four elders slightly grimaced when they saw the dauntless golden swordfish. Arg! All it took was 1 second for the golden swordfish to rush into the group of inborn experts. Despairing shrieks were heard instantly. Courting your own doom. Upon seeing their men being killed, coldness took over the faces of Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi as they wielded their longswords at the golden swordfish. Trying to attack? Ajaya saw the two of them launching their strikes as she raised her truncheon in her hand with an awful look. A vast lotus surfaced in front of her. With the size of a few hundred meters, the lotus was hurled at Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. TSK, Level 13 Spiritual Equipment. Spiritual equipment used by an immortal. The four elders stared at her truncheon when Ajaya launched her attack. A glimmer of passion flashed across their eyes. Alas is ultimately alas. An elder scorned as he wielded the staff in his hand. The lotus that Ajaya released shook violently in the air. Subsequently, it vanished just like a firework. What? Ajaya paled immediately. She staggered back while Xiaoyu quickly held on to her. Bam, bam, bam. In that instant, Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi rushed into the golden swordfish. The long killing blade and the icy fist came smashing through the bodies of the golden swordfish. Chapter 624, Return of the Dragon King, 5. It's over. It's definitely over now. The Dragon Sect is going to be annihilated now. It's finally over. The Dragon Sect is too strong. Even with the four old men with immortal-like strength, they still managed to kill over 100 inborn experts from our side. This is insane. PSK. The Dragon Sect would never have expected our side to have 4 immortal-like existences. With the 4 old men on our side, the Underworld will be eternal sacred sects in the future. Around the battlefield, martial artists that were below the inborn realm were shocked and exhilarated to see members of the Dragon Sect being killed one after another. After annihilating the Dragon Sect, they would be the rulers of the Underworld in the future. The battle had also caused a huge ruckus on the Underworld website. It was especially so for the terrifying strength of the 4 old men. The scenes of those 1,000-meter-tall fire pillars and the destruction of the mountains with a wave of their arms had made everyone feel they were exceptionally minuscule in this world. Even those from the sacred clans and sacred sects were astonished and fearful. Insane. Those 4 old men are too terrifying. Are they the immortals recorded in history? It seems like the entire Underworld will be eternal sacred sects after today. Haze. They aren't something we could possibly resist. After this battle, let's surrender to them. Their strength is probably equivalent to those powerful forces internationally. This is insane. The Underworld is going to be unified. Before the 4 old men, those so-called sacred sects are just ants that could be annihilated with a wave of their arms. It's not surprising that sect leader Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi are willing to surrender and join the eternal sacred sect. After this major battle, let's surrender to them too. Even if the Dragon King is still around, he's still going to be killed if he faces the 4 old men. There's nothing to change the current situation now. Just prepare to surrender. When all the forces of the Underworld witnessed what happened, they gasped in awe. All the forces had decided and prepared to surrender after this battle. This was because the strength displayed by the 4 old men wasn't something they could possibly hope to resist. I recall that some families in Rivertown are firm supporters of the Dragon Sect. In that case, let's annihilate those people to express our loyalty. Some first-class and second-class forces had made up their minds. The annihilation of the Dragon Sect had been cast in stone. Similarly, the unification of the Underworld had also been cast in stone. At this moment, what they should do was get on the good books of Eternal Sacred Sect. In fact, it would be even better if they could join and become a subsidiary sect. Go. Several families moved rapidly. They wanted to express their loyalty and sincerity as much as they could before the Dragon Sect was annihilated. Bring these girls back for interrogation. The Dragon Sect had suffered catastrophic losses. Only 30 to 40 Dragonians remained standing on the floating island. An old man stood in the air and looked down on them with a sense of superiority. His eyes landed on Xiaoyu, Ajaya, Guan Shuqing, and the other 3 girls as he remarked with anticipation. "Yes, Your Excellency. Leave them to us." The crowd from Diabolism revealed vile smiles as they stared at Xiaoyu and the other girls. Hee hee, the girls of the Dragon King. I'm getting excited at just the thought of it. A middle-aged man with a long tongue licked his lips as he walked towards the girls with contempt. "Be careful of those 2 girls," an old man reminded. "It's going to be fine. With Your Excellency here, we will be fine." The middle-aged man smiled. The 2 leaders from Crimson Bug grinned creepily as they stared at Xiaoyu and the girls. "Capture us? Forget about it. You aren't going to capture us even if we die." Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the other girls revealed determined looks. "Get closer to me. Get ready." Ajaya held onto the truncheon in her hands tightly and spoke softly to Xiaoyu and the other girls. Xiaoyu, Elder Fong, Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and Sun Lingxue moved slowly towards Ajaya. "We are going to have some fun ourselves after capturing them. Hee hee, the girls of the Dragon King." The middle-aged man with the long tongue made a weird sound before charging ahead. "Kill." When Imo Qinglong and the remaining Dragonians saw them, they flapped their wings violently and charged towards them. Ants. Seeing that the Dragonians were still resisting, the truncheon in the hands of the old man glowed dazzlingly. A huge cage appeared in the sky and swooped down. SSS. Imo Qinglong and the other Dragonians lifted their heads and felt helpless. A futile struggle. When the surrounding crowd saw the flaming cage descending from the sky, they were deeply impressed and remarked excitedly, "Let's go." Ajaya's hands shook when she saw the 4 old men attacking. Gradually, fresh blood flowed out from her arm and towards the truncheon. A ring of fire appeared and surrounded the 6 of them. Ajaya, Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and Sun Lingxue were flustered to see fresh blood gushing out from Ajaya's arm. "Don't leave the defensive circle," Ajaya remarked with a pale face. She pulled a long face and continued, "Go." The next instant, Ajaya spat a mouthful of fresh blood on the truncheon. The surrounding ring of fire started circulating at a terrifying speed. Huh, escaping? When the 4 old men saw the actions of Ajaya, they smirked. "Will we let you escape?" "Flaming cell." An old man lifted his truncheon and pointed in the direction that Ajaya and the rest were escaping towards. Wong. A huge flaming cell appeared once again. Although it wasn't as powerful as the pyro cell, it still emitted heart-wrenching might. "Move away." Guan Shuqing was infuriated. Her face was flushed as she raised the fire god Lotus truncheon and released scorching hot fireballs. However, the fireballs did not have much effect when they landed on the flaming cell. "He won't be able to stop us," Ajaya remarked anxiously. The ring of fire turned even more rapidly and flew towards the sky. Bam, bam, bam. When the ring of fire contacted the flaming cell, intense collisions gradually created cracks in the cell. "If you could escape from the 4 of us, we would have lived our lives in vain." Ruthlessness flashed across the eyes of an old man when he saw the collapsing flaming cell. Heaven and earth. Flaming cell. Heaven and earth. Flaming cell. Beside the old man, the other 3 old men shouted. Streams of fire shot across the sky and formed an even more terrifying flaming cell. Ajaya was astonished to see the flaming cell from all directions. She spat another mouthful of fresh blood on her truncheon once again. "Let me teach you all a lesson first." An old man waved his arm and a flaming long spear was thrown towards Ajaya at an incredible speed. Ajaya, who was manipulating the truncheon, was caught by surprise. "Let me stop it." Guan Shuqing moved to stand before Ajaya instantly when she saw the approaching flaming long spear. "No, sister-in-law, you are too weak now. My defense is stronger." Xiaoyu wanted to push Guan Shuqing away. "Xiaoyu, you are already injured. Leave this to me. I have the essence blood of a Suzaku." Perhaps I can reach Nirvana. Perhaps I can be reborn with even greater strength. Otherwise, it would be hard for us to escape this time. Guan Shuqing was resolute. Feeling the scorching hot attack, she grimaced and placed both arms before her. Futile attempt. Seeing Guan Shuqing trying to stop the attack, contempt flashed across the eyes of the four old men. The red flaming long spear easily pierced through Guan Shuqing's defense and penetrated her body. The girls around Guan Shuqing were filled with despair. Sun Lingxiu instantly injected streams of light energy into her body. Please, let me reach the state of Nirvana. A teardrop flowed out of Guan Shuqing's eyes. Feeling the vitality leaving her body, she mumbled to herself. No. At this moment, a frenzied roar reverberated across. Chapter 625. Massacre of the Underworld, 1. No. A frenzied roar reverberated across, shaking the entire earth. A figure was charging towards Guan Shuqing, and the rest at a terrifying speed. Shuqing. The incoming person was none other than Wang Xian. He had flown to Rivertown at an ultra-fast speed, but he was still late. Fire shot out from his eyes as he stared at the chest of Guan Shuqing that had been pierced through. A cloud of terrifying killing intent surged in his heart as though a devil was going to break out of its shackles. Xiaoxian. Xiaoxian. Brother. Dragon King. Upon seeing the sudden appearance of Wang Xian, Xiaoyu, Lan Qingyue, Ajaya, Sun Lingxiu, and Elder Fong, who had lost all hope, immediately cried out in happiness. Xiaoxian, save Shuqing now. Now. Lan Qingyue's tears rolled down her cheeks immediately. The moment Wang Xian appeared, she could finally let down her toughness and cried out sadly. Brother, check out sister-in-law Shuqing. Quick. Upon seeing Wang Xian, Xiaoyu finally had someone to rely on as she cried loudly. She will be all right. She will be all right. With bloodshot eyes, Wang Xian hugged Guan Shuqing as he mumbled. Seeing the Guan Shuqing's chest had been pierced through, Wang Xian's dragon energy rushed frantically into her body. With an arm swing, he popped some level 7 spiritual medicine into her mouth. Panic filled his face as he stared at Guan Shuqing. You'll be all right. Wang Xian was quivering slightly. Xiaoxian, you're back. That's great. I won't die. I can reach Nirvana and be reborn again. Seeing Wang Xian's return, Guan Shuqing squeezed out a smile as she whispered to him. No, rest assured. I will not let you die. Nobody can take you from me. Wang Xian touched the chest of Guan Shuqing, sensing her vitality vanishing within her body as she turned cold. Good to hear that. I don't want to leave you yet. I just want to rest. Rest? As Guan Shuqing said this, she closed her eyes. Wang Xian slowly shut his eyes as he sensed her weakening heartbeat. Dragon energy continued to stream into her body frantically. But that could hardly maintain her faltering heartbeat. This struck coldness into Wang Xian. Dragon King. It's the Dragon King. He's back. Gosh. Just then, the surrounding crowd began exclaiming in surprise. The crowd, including those inborn experts, were full of astonishment, with fear in their eyes the moment they saw Wang Xian hover over. Reputation was all that mattered. The terror that the Dragon King brought along with him was carved in their bones. Hence, the sudden appearance of the Dragon King struck horror on everyone's faces. Many martial artists involuntarily staggered back in trepidation. What's there to be afraid of? So what if the Dragon King arrived? Even if another Dragon King arrived, they would die today. At this time, the leader of the Crimson Bug of Diabolism yelled, staring coldly at Wang Xian, with eyes that surged with killing intent. That's right. So what if the Dragon King is here? He's here for his death. He's just in time. Today we will witness the slaying of the dragon. All the martial artists had come to this realization after the leader of the Crimson Bug shouted. They cast their gazes at the Dragon King, then back to the four elders. With them around, so what if the Dragon King was here? Even 2 Dragon Kings would die, let alone the one that was here. On the Underworld forum, everyone was horrified to see the appearance of the Dragon King. But soon, they relaxed again after seeing the oppressive four elders. Given such a situation, even the Dragon King would not be able to turn the tables around. The four elders were simply too daunting. Dragon King, I did not expect you would be still alive. Upon seeing the sudden appearance of Wang Xian, Nya Wushuang and Emperor Qi revealed a surprised look. They thought the Dragon King was dead, but it turned out otherwise. If not for that immortal from Yongchang world saving them, they might have perished. They did not expect that the Dragon King was such a lucky person. The Dragon King is tough. Emperor Qi stared coldly at Wang Xian and revealed a faint smile. Oh, this is that Dragon King? The four elders studied Wang Xian with curiosity. He, a famous figure in the real world. Dragon King, lucky you're not dead yet. Otherwise, we would be missing a talent in the real world. That would be a pity. Subsequently, the four elders chuckled and fixed their eyes on Wang Xian with ease. There was a taunting look in their eyes. The unparalleled talent in the real world to them was just a slightly more powerful ant. So what if his cultivation had advanced to budding realm? In terms of combat power, he was still far off. Not bad for a lad to reach this stage. Since he could also get his confidence to this stage, he must have obtained some scary legacy. Nice. Tell us about it, and we'll give you a quick death. An elder beamed at Wang Xian as he spoke. In his view, it was a surprising joy to see Wang Xian. How domineering. Nobody dared to speak to the Dragon King in the Underworld for very long. The ones who dared to do so are now dead men. However, I'm afraid it will not be the same again. They totally disregarded the Dragon King. However, the four godlike elders are fit to do so. Everyone was astonished by how the four elders spoke to Wang Xian in an overbearing manner. It used to be the Dragon King era, but now, it was coming to an end. It's great to have the Dragon King here, now that we can witness the dragon slaying. Everyone switched into a different mood as they fixed their eyes fervently. It was the slaying of dragon, that arrogant yet invincible Dragon King. Wang Xian overheard the conversation around him without any words. He lowered his head and wiped the blood from the corner of Guan Shuqing's lips. He stood up gently, carrying her body, looking at his sister. He turned and looked at Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu, Ajaya, and Elder Feng. Wang Xian stretched out his hands and wiped their tears off their cheeks. I'm late. Wang Xian stared at the pale-looking girls with heartache. He took out elixir pills and fed them to them. No, Xiao Xian, you're not late. Lan Qingyue's eyes were red as she could not help but cry again. Glad that you're here. Ajaya felt a load off her shoulders as she curved her lips, revealing a goddess-like smile. Over to you, Xiao Xian. Sun Lingxiu, as usual, believed in Wang Xian as she spoke to him. Wang Xian smiled at them and spun around slowly. Instantly, his face became utterly cold, as though the winter had come, with the devil descending upon earth. He swept his gaze across the bodies of the Dragonians and golden swordfish with boiling murderous intent within him. Chapter 626, Massacre of the Underworld 2. Only 2 level 11 swordfish remained from the golden swordfish race. As for Dragonians, 31 survived. Catastrophic losses. Out of 200 members of the Dragon Sect, less than 1/5 remained. Wang Xian took a deep breath, looked across everyone and said emotionlessly, I'm back. I'm back. The 4 cold words entered the ears of the 5,000 to 6,000 people present. You are just in time to be buried with your Dragon Sect and the rest. Nya Wushuang stared harshly at Wang Xian upon hearing him. The Dragon King had killed over 10 inborn experts from his Donghua sacred sect and overwhelmed the Donghua sacred sect with strength. He had long wanted to kill him. Haha, Dragon King, you are just in time. Today, my crimson bug can finally have its revenge. Let me tell you this. After your death, I will ruthlessly torture your girls. I'll let my bugs crawl into their bodies. I'll let them experience something worse than death. Ha ha ha. The two leaders of Crimson Bug laughed hysterically, and their eyes were beaming with bloodlust. Haha, Dragon King, you have killed the attendants and elders of my Donghua sacred sect. Today will be the day you die. Nya Wuya also stared at Wang Xian with ecstasy. His face was contorted as he laughed hysterically. Slay the dragon. Slay the dragon. So what if you are back? Haha, we are going to slay the dragon. At this moment, the surrounding crowd of martial artists faced Wang Xian without fear. At this moment, they were completely fearless towards the Dragon King that had once instilled complete fear in them. They were unusually excited about torturing and killing a supreme expert. All of you will die. All those families and forces that participated today will never have another day of peace. Wang Xian looked at the crowd before him. Gradually, the anger in his eyes dissipated and was replaced with apathy, cold and nonchalant apathy. Haha, the Dragon King still isn't aware of what the situation is. He's still not aware of what kinds of existences he is facing. That's right. If the Dragon King knew about the terrifying strength of the four old men, I wonder if he would dare to be so arrogant and brazen. I would love to see how the Dragon King is crushed easily onto the ground. When the martial artists heard Wang Xian, their faces were filled with contempt. Brat, I really hate your arrogance. Among the four old men, the old man standing in the middle extended his arm. It's going to start. That terrifying old man is going to strike. When the surrounding crowd saw the actions of the old man, they were instantly exhilarated. Fire grip strangulation. The old man lifted his arm and was wearing a fiery red glove. The next instant, a palm that spanned a dozen-odd meters grabbed towards Wang Xian. You guys must be from Yongchang Immortal Sect. If Shuqing is in any form of danger, I'll send your entire Yongchang Immortal Sect to hell to accompany her. Wang Xian stared at the four old men and commented plainly as though he was saying something ordinary. Huh. The four old men were astonished to hear what Wang Xian said. Their faces turned solemn instantly as they remarked, Arrogant brat. This old man here will slaughter you. The old man lowered his arm and that huge 10-meter palm, that was seemingly made of lava, pressed towards Wang Xian. Haha, when I, the Dragon King, slaughtered 100 men in Yongchang Immortal Sect, your Hong Yin Excellency didn't even dare to say a word. What are you guys? Bloodthirst gleamed in Wang Xian's eyes as he lifted his arm slightly. Boom! That giant flaming palm that was pressing down towards Wang Xian collapsed instantly into streams of water. I have made up my mind to massacre this underworld. Wang Xian lifted both of his arms. What? When the four old men saw the flaming palm collapsing, their expressions changed drastically. Their hearts had already skipped a beat when they heard Wang Xian mentioning Hong Yin. How can this be possible? Brat, how dare you call our sect leader by his name and make such brazen claims? An old man was infuriated and dense flames rose from his body. At this moment, he was just like a terrifying volcano. However, before he could finish his words, sounds of water flowing could be heard. What? Gosh, what is that? Suddenly, to the horror of the martial artists around, they noticed that the surrounding seawater was rising. They were in the middle of the sea initially. At this moment, the surrounding seawater was raised. It reached a height of over 1,000 meters rapidly and surrounded everyone. From today onwards, my dragon sect will massacre the underworld. Everyone and anyone who participated in this matter will never have another day of peace. Wang Xian looked plainly across the astonished 5,000 to 6,000 people. Horrifying seawater swept towards them like a giant waterfall. What? No. No. How can this be possible? This attack. How can this be possible? With Wang Xian at the center, the radius of several thousands of meters was surrounded by a wall of water that was several thousand meters tall. The terrifying scene was just like what an immortal was capable of. No, he's even stronger than immortals. Just a while ago, they thought that the might the four old men had displayed was sufficiently shocking. At this moment, compared to the might the Dragon King displayed, It was like comparing a drizzle to a downpour. The terrifying scene shrouded a radius of 5 to 6 kilometers. What was the meaning of this? Shit. How could he have such terrifying destructive forces? The four old men were astonished and weren't showing any traces of the composure they had previously. Feeling the terrifying water energy around them, their minds and hearts were shaken to the core. This can't be real. What he said can't be real. This is impossible. An immortal-level attack. This definitely cannot be possible. The four old men roared. They flexed their bodies and terrifying flames shot through the clouds. Boom! However, a terrifying stream of water smashed onto them directly. Everyone was staring at the four old men anxiously and watching them resisting the streams of water. Their foreheads were filled with perspiration and eyes were filled with fear. Dang! The water streams coalesced into water swords that were over 1,000 meters in size before falling from the sky. They clashed with the flames, making sizzling sounds. However, the water energy in the atmosphere was too overwhelming. The flames were rapidly extinguished. Boom! No! No! The four old men were flabbergasted as they struggled to keep the flames around them to resist the water swords. I won't let you guys die so easily. Wang Xian stared at them before looking across the crowd. His voice was that of a devil to the crowd. When the surrounding martial artists saw the four old men incapable of withstanding a single strike from Wang Xian, the despair on their faces was magnified countless times. The seemingly immortal-like four old men in their eyes couldn't even withstand a strike from the Dragon King. Not even a single strike. How great were the differences in strength? Boom! At this moment, they felt like they were shrouded in seawater instantly. They didn't even have the strength to put up any resistance. The seawater had even shrouded Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. Both of them widened their eyes, which were filled with utter disbelief. Arg! The seawater is heating up. Arg! I can't take this. Screams of horrors resounded as the gate to hell was opened. Chapter 627 Massacre of the Underworld 3. No, we can't defend it. We have no resistance against it. Fear and despair. Arg, it's the boiling water. How can it hit such a daunting temperature? The world seemed to have come to an end when the surrounding crowd heard the shrieks from the four elders. Their end had arrived. Sensing their bodies being boiled over by the seething water, they knew that the Dragon King was turning this place into a living hell. They would be tortured to death. No, I don't want to die. Dragon King, it's my fault. But it's all because of Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace. They were the ones. Fear crawled upon the faces of several martial artists as they tried to struggle out, but their efforts were in vain. Arg! Nie Wuxiang let out a bellow as he exuded domineering golden radiance. Yet, the golden radiance was unable to get him out of the water region. The same went for Emperor Qi. All of them, including the four elders, were in the same situation. Immortal realm. You have advanced to the immortal realm. Ah, how is that possible? Sensing the pain coming from their bodies, the four elders shouted at Wang Xian in consternation. Recalling what Wang Xian just said, they were certain about it. Their expressions sank into despair. Enjoy the arrival of death. Looking nonchalant, Wang Xian swept his gaze across everyone before he turned and walked toward the Dragonians. Dragon King. Upon seeing the arrival of Wang Xian, Imo Qinglong knelt down along with the rest of the Dragonians. Take it. Wang Xian gave a simple nod and tossed a level 5 elixir pill to each of them. He looked around at the bodies on the ground. Dragon King, they should be able to be resurrected, Imo Qinglong said respectfully when he saw Wang Xian scanning around. Wang Xian remained quiet as he looked at him. Dragon King, this is the sole returning branch that I got from the Dragon Palace. Imo Qinglong pointed to a grayish branch in the middle of the floating island as he spoke. As Wang Xian looked at the glowing branch, a hint of unexpected joy flashed in his eyes. When Ye Wuxuang and Emperor Qi returned a few days ago, I was afraid they might be up to no good. Hence, I went back to the Dragon Palace. Initially, I wanted some of the members from the Dragon Palace to follow me back, but I can't command them, and they ignored me. Prime Minister Turtle said the Dragon Palace needed guards, and none of them could leave without your orders. But he gave me a soul returning branch, and said this would help us tide ourselves over in resisting crisis when in danger. Mo Qinglong accounted to Wang Xian respectfully. It was a thoughtful idea from Prime Minister Turtle. Wang Xian looked satisfied with it. Mo Qinglong had wanted some of the members from Dragon Palace to be present here, but Prime Minister Turtle and the rest would definitely ignore Mo Qinglong as no one else could command them except himself. But luckily, Prime Minister Turtle was being thoughtful by getting Mo Qinglong to bring forth a soul returning branch. Otherwise, their loss would have been rather huge. Roving Sword. Wang Xian shouted to Roving Sword. Yes. Roving Sword walked over immediately as he lowered his head in respect. Old Mo, inform Omniscient Group. Those who were involved in attacking my family, our sect, kill them all. No matter how many forces have participated in this, no one stays alive, said Wang Xian coldly. Roving Sword, you'll follow them. Yes, Dragon King. Frantic killing intent surged within the eyes of Mo Qinglong and the rest of the Dragonians. Even Roving Sword held his fist tight with golden radiance flickering in his eyes. This time, there were only 2 of the Golden Swordfish clan left. As the leader of the clan, he had to slay all the enemies. You guys provoked me first. Don't blame me for being cruel. This time, I'll massacre the entire underworld. Wang Xian slowly turned around and surveyed his surroundings. At this time, it had become a living hell. Despairing screams and agonized shrieks were ringing in his ears non-stop. Dragon King, you'll die horribly. Nye Wuxuang, Emperor Qi, and the rest of the experts from sacred sects and sacred clan growled ferociously with trepidation on their faces when they heard Wang Xian. Dragon King is going to annihilate clans and sects. This time, it's a complete wipeout. This struck desperate rage and immense fear into all of them. What awaited their loved ones and friends would be the insane revenge of Dragon Sect. You guys did the same thing to my Dragon Sect. I'm just paying you back. Upon hearing their despairing screams, Wang Xian let out a clap of cold laughter. Go to hell and make your confession. Arg. No, please let my family go. No, no. Dragon King, I was wrong. I beg you, please. All of them panicked and shivered in their boots. However, Wang Xian remained unwavering. If he had not arrived today, all the people in Dragon Sect would have been killed. They would not have let off his loved ones and friends. So why should he let them off? Do it now. Wang Xian commanded Mo Qinglong and Roving Sword coldly. Yes. Dragonians and Roving Sword responded loudly. Roving Sword swung his arm and supported their bodies with a long sword. Then they disappeared at a daunting speed. Send the information of those forces and enemies who participated in besieging us. We are going to pay them back. After hovering out of the scary sea region, Mo Qinglong contacted a Dragonian in the Omniscient Group right away. As of now, the biggest intel group, Omniscient Group, was under the control of Dragon Sect. Obtaining information was a piece of cake. Yes, currently, there are 3 first-class forces and 2 second-class forces in Rivertown. They posted that they will be off to kill those families that befriended the Dragon King. The forces who participated in besieging us are Donghua Sacred Sect, Devil Corpse Palace, Devil Spirits Temple, Dongmin Clan, Dark Sect. On the Underworld Forum, those forces who supported in annihilating Dragon Sect are Qingtian Sect from Gu City, Hua and Han family of Modue. Soon, Mo Qinglong got hold of all the information. While Omniscient Group was running at full force, Roving Sword began the massacre with 31 Dragonians at a domineering speed. However, the live update on the Underworld Forum had not been updated for more than 10 minutes. Today, 99% of the martial artists who were not present in Rivertown were staring at the live update on the forum. All the martial artists of the Underworld were surprised to see that the live update had stopped updating for more than 10 minutes. What's going on? Update it now. Didn't Dragon King arrive? What is happening? Was the Dragon King killed? Quick, show us the dead body of the Dragon King. It has been more than 10 minutes. Why aren't there any updates? TSK, could it be that the Dragon King has been killed and now they're trying to clean up the scene? Why is the update so slow? Update now. Otherwise, I'll curse you for being killed by the Dragon King. After more than 10 minutes of silence, all the martial artists in the Underworld were anxious about it. What's going on? Post the pictures of the Dragon King getting killed now. Chapter 628. Blood Flowing 8,000 Miles, 1. All the martial artists were staring anxiously at the Underworld website for updates from Rivertown. However, half an hour passed by quickly and there wasn't any news updated on the Underworld website. What's the matter? What's the situation now? Even if the Dragon King has arrived, all the matters should have been settled by now. Why isn't the thread being updated? Could it be that the original poster was killed? Some martial artists stared at the Underworld website and felt that something wasn't right. A bad premonition started weighing over their minds. As for the families and members of Donghua Sacred Sect, Devil Corpse Palace, Dark Sect, and some other sacred clans and sacred sects, they hesitated for a moment before attempting to make calls. However, none of them got any responses. This undoubtedly made them feel that something bad had happened. However, they shook their heads violently soon. It's impossible. It cannot be. Sect leader Nie Wuxuang and Emperor Qi were so strong. More importantly, there were 4 other immortal-like old men with them. They had witnessed how terrifying these 4 old men were. Each action of theirs could bring forth catastrophic destruction. Existences like these weren't something that the Dragon King could handle. Time passed by gradually. At this very moment, Shui family of Rivertown was one of the top ancient martial arts families in Rivertown. Due to their relations with the Dragon King, no one in the Underworld would dare to offend the Shui family. Within the backyard of Shui family's villa, old Shui lay on the floor and was coughing out blood. Shui Jiehua and Shui Jing were also on the floor with pale faces. The 3 generations glowered furiously at the group of people before the door, and their eyes were filled with despair. TSK, the Shui family sure is weak and small. The only thing you could blame would be following the wrong master and forces. Since you are on great terms with the Dragon King, you guys can meet him in hell. In the middle of the courtyard, a group of 20-plus martial artists stared harshly at the Shui family. All of them had hideous and gruesome looks on them. Cough, cough. Our Shui family is contented to have enjoyed the glory days. Old Shui smiled bitterly and had seemingly accepted his impending death. The Dragon King was killed and the Dragon Sect was annihilated. To show their loyalty to the eternal sacred sect, this group of people before them wanted to annihilate his Shui family. He looked at his son and grandson beside him. Although he was bitter, he heaved a long sigh. Grandpa, there's nothing to fear about death. After all, we have enjoyed the glory days. Hee. It's been worthwhile. Shui Jing grinned at his grandpa before turning to stare coldly at the group of people before them. If the Dragon King can make it past this disaster, he will definitely take revenge for us. All of you will suffer gruesome deaths. Haha, Dragon King? He's dead by now. Before the 4 immortal-like experts, he has probably been reduced to dust by now. You can show your loyalty in hell. Haha, in the future, there will no longer be any Dragon Sect or Dragon King in the Underworld. An old man standing in the middle laughed hysterically at them. Today, we will grant you a quick death. Go join your Dragon King in hell. Ha 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 ha. Hysterical laughter resounded in the backyard of the Shui family. 3 middle-aged men smirked and walked towards the 3 generations of the Shui family with their long swords. There's nothing to fear about death. Old Shui gritted his teeth, shut his mouth, and then shouted. Hee. In that case, die. The 3 middle-aged men swung their swords towards them. Bam, bam, bam. The 3 generations of the Shui family closed their eyes in despair as they waited for death to descend upon them. However, all they heard were sounds of things falling to the ground. The pain, which they had expected, did not come. This shocked the 3 generations of the Shui family. The Dragon Sect would not let the friends of our Dragon King die. A faint voice reverberated, and old Shui jerked opened his eyes. He saw over 30 people in the air. After a brief moment of feeling lost, excitement beamed in his eyes. Oldemo, you guys. Old Shui's body shivered in agitation as his eyes beamed with fervor. Our Dragon King shall shine forever like the sun and moon. Those who offend the Dragon King or the Dragon Sect shall all die. Emo Qinglong nodded his head at old Shui, following which, he got back onto the golden long sword and flew away. Dragon King? The Dragon King isn't dead. The Dragon King isn't dead. Shui Jiahua and Shui Jiahua opened their eyes and saw the disappearing crowd of Dragonians. When they saw the 20-odd people who were still going on about killing them moments ago on the floor, exhilaration was written all over their eyes. If the Dragon King isn't dead, then... Old Shui stood up gradually, and his eyes beamed with fervor. Nia Wushuang from Donghua Sacred Sect, Emperor Qi of Diabolism, and the 4 old men were finished. They definitely have been killed by the Dragon King. Shui Jing continued the sentence for his grandfather. His face was flushed red from excitement as he cheered, "Haha, great. This is perfect." Shui family, who had been in despair moments ago, were in ecstasy after surviving the ordeal. Let me check the information on the Underworld website. Shui Jing took out his phone immediately. There isn't any news on the Underworld website yet, and the livestream broadcast stopped after the Dragon King appeared. It seems like they were all killed. Let's just wait for news from here onwards. Old Shui's eyes flickered. From here onwards, they will be awaiting the anger of the Dragon King. The anger of the Dragon King. Old Shui knew Wang Xian well. He was a friend who valued relationships. If he was your enemy, he definitely wouldn't show mercy or compassion. On the Underworld website, it had been an hour since the last update on the return of the Dragon King appeared on the livestream thread. The more time that passed, the more flustered some people felt. It was especially so when no one could contact the experts who had gone to annihilate the Dragon Sect. Unconsciously, everyone had a bad premonition about the incident. Shocking. Donghua Sacred Sect has been annihilated. Not a single disciple remains. 1 hour and 5 minutes later, a thread appeared on the Underworld website and sent shockwaves throughout the Underworld. When everyone clicked into the thread, they were instantly dumbfounded. Blood and destruction represented the current Donghua Sacred Sect. Those pictures of corpses made everyone feel as if their scalps were going numb. Fear that originated from one soul spread across their entire body. The pictures on the thread were all pictures of the corpses of Donghua Sacred Sect's disciples. Moreover, these corpses could be found throughout the entire Donghua Sacred Sect. The original poster was a friend of an attendant of Donghua Sacred Sect. 10 minutes before, he had headed to Donghua Sacred Sect and witnessed a horrifying scene. Donghua Sacred Sect was annihilated. Gosh, what happened? Who did it? Donghua Sacred Sect was annihilated. Everyone in the number 1 Sacred Sect of the Underworld has now been slaughtered. Gosh, who's the one responsible? What happened? Why would Donghua Sacred Sect be annihilated? Looking at the pictures on the thread, everyone shivered in fear. The largest sacred sect in the Underworld had been annihilated without a single person surviving. Could it be the acts of the Dragon King and the Dragon Sect? Some people's eyes widened. At the thought that no news was coming from Rivertown, a terrifying thought surfaced in their minds. Chapter 629, Blood Flowing 8,000 Miles, 2. Donghua Sacred Sect was annihilated with no one left in the Ancestral Sect. When the news got out, the entire Underworld was blown away. Soon, some of them guessed that Donghua Sacred Sect had been annihilated by Dragon King and Dragon Sect. That was because everyone lost touch with Rivertown after the Dragon King's return. They made a bold speculation that those who tried to annihilate Dragon Sect had all been killed by Dragon King. Boom. Gosh. Devil Corpse Palace is being annihilated. Just as everyone was still overwhelmed by the fact that Donghua Sacred Sect had been annihilated, another shocking piece of news came by. Devil Corpse Palace, the strongest ancestral sect of diabolism, was annihilated. SSS. When the news was out, everyone drew in a cold breath. Devil Corpse Palace was not any weaker than Donghua Sacred Sect. Yet, it was exterminated too. On the same post were various photos with the corpses of the Devil Corpse Palace disciples. None of them were alive. The entire Devil Corpse Palace was quiet as hell. It must be the Dragon King. It must be him. He's the only one who could annihilate Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace. The Dragon King is not dead. He's annihilating all those who besieged the Dragon Sect. I had a bad feeling ever since that live update stopped updating. The Dragon King is not dead, and it looks like Dragon Sect has begun taking their revenge. Within an hour, the strongest sacred sect of the orthodox sects and diabolism were annihilated. This is too fast and furious. Scary. The downfall of Devil Corpse Palace had made everyone believe that the Dragon King was not dead, and that Dragon Sect had not been exterminated. On the contrary, those who besieged Dragon Sect were all gone by now. This shocked everyone. With the downfall of Donghua Sacred Sect and Devil Corpse Palace, the revenge of the Dragon King has begun. I'm afraid those forces that participated in the siege are finished. The forces who participated account for 60% of the families and sacred sects from the orthodox sects and diabolism in the underworld. Can the Dragon King take revenge on them one by one? In less than 20 minutes, their speculation was answered. Devil Spirit's Temple of Diabolism was annihilated. Half an hour later, Dark Sect was annihilated. An hour later, Heavenly Sound Sect was annihilated. An hour and a half later, Dongmin Clan was annihilated. In just 2 hours, news of the various sacred sects and clans being annihilated kept coming. This time, no one in the sects lived. The entire underworld was plunged into silence when they saw the messages uploaded onto the forum. Soon after, some of the people became frightened as their families and ancestral sects had participated in the siege. This struck an immense terror into them. Quick, disperse, everyone. All of you, find a place to hide. Those who can leave the country, leave now. Back in Han family in Modu, all the family members revealed a frightful look when they read the news of the downfall of various sacred sects and clans. It was to their ultimate surprise that the siege of Dragon Sect had actually failed. They knew very well of the Four Elders' strength. If such domineering existences failed, Han family was nothing to them. Fear crept into them. Without any hesitation, the family head of Han family ordered them to run as far as they could. Do you think you can escape? At this time, Roving Sword and members of Dragon Sect appeared in the air within the huge villa of the Han family. They were glowering at the Han family, who was freaking out. What? How did they make it here so fast? When the members of the Han family heard Mo Qinglong, they craned up and yelled in quivering voices. No, please. Don't kill us. We surrender. Don't kill us. When the family head of Han family saw the disciples of Dragon Sect in the air, he was utterly devastated as he fell to his knees, begging for mercy. Kill. The cold voice took away all the hopes of the Han family as all of them fell into despair. Let's go. No one in the Han family was alive 3 minutes later. Roving Sword led Mo Qinglong and the rest to their next destination. Given Roving Sword's speed, it would at most take him 1 hour to fly from the farthest point east to the farthest point west in the country. Due to their daunting speed, the families and ancestral sects were annihilated before they could even react. No one left alive. When the group of forces besieged the Dragon Sect, trying to kill the Shui family, they did not intend to leave anyone alive. Hence, Mo Qinglong and the gang would not go soft on them. None of them could stay alive in this massacre. Han family was annihilated. Lu family was annihilated. News of the ancestral sects and families quickly filled up the entire Underworld forum. The entire underworld went into complete silence while all the ancestral sects and families gasped. At this moment, the world seemed to have quieted down. All the martial artists grew numb with the messages that they read. They were just staring blankly with all the forces having been wiped out. Once the Dragon King rages, blood flows for 1,000 miles. Almost 60% of the families and ancestral sects in the underworld had participated in the siege of Dragon Sect. Yet, these forces were reduced at a daunting speed. Finally, someone on the forum confirmed that the one behind this was Dragon Sect at 8 p.m. Although the news did not create much of a ruckus in the forum, everyone was still stunned by it. How strong is the Dragon King? And how strong is the Dragon Sect? The four elders were already domineering, just like immortals. Yet, they were still killed by the Dragon King. Tonight was a sleepless night for the underworld. Hours passed and dawn broke. The sun rose into the sky. As time passed, the sun set and the moon was hanging in the sky. Over 30 hours had passed. All the martial artists in the underworld were reduced by 60%. None of those forces that participated in the siege survived. No one escaped, not even those families and ancestral sects who received news early. Dragon Sect spent 15 hours wiping out all the ancestral sects and families, and another 10-odd hours to round up those who tried to escape. Gosh, the underworld is down by 60% of its martial artists. Once the Dragon King rages, blood flows for 1,000 miles. Everyone will pay respect to Dragon Sect. Anyone who offends them will die. New posts began to surface in the forum, but the martial artists could clearly sense the significant loss in the active members of the underworld. All in all, there were over hundreds of thousands of martial artists in the underworld, but now, not even half were left. The thought of the numbers terrified everyone. Dragon King signifies a taboo in the future. Some of the forces and families exclaimed to themselves. Trepidation and fear. From now on, no one in the underworld would ever speak ill of the Dragon King. The future of the underworld would definitely settle down. All the families and forces would pass down instructions to their children and disciples that they must address the Dragon King as the king. Chapter 630, Boundless Branch and Nirvana. Haze. In a luxurious villa of Gue Province, a girl heaved a sigh of relief. A zither lay before her. As she saw over 30 disciples of the Dragon Sect with terrifying aura leave, she felt lost. Daughter, it's great that you avoided this catastrophe. Luckily, you know the Dragon King. Beside her, the richest man in Gue Province, Tang Juchao, wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead as he spoke with a shaky voice. Heavenly Sound Sect has been annihilated. Tang Yinxian looked at the zither in her hands with complicated feelings. Sorrows were written over her face. Survival of the fittest. Yinxian, try to let this go. Tang Juchao paused for a moment before saying, the Heavenly Sound Sect participated in the annihilation of the Dragon Sect. Now that the Dragon King is back, it's only natural that he administers the same treatment to his enemies. It's all about the survival of the fittest. Luckily, you did not participate in it. They probably let you off because you weren't involved much in it, and that middle-aged man knew you. Tang Yinxian smiled bitterly. She shook her head slowly and played a sorrowful piece. While Roving Sword led the Dragonians to take revenge, Wang Xian brought Xiao Yu and the other girls, together with all the corpses, towards the Dragon Palace on the yacht. Xiao Xian, how is Shuqing now? When they saw Wang Xian walk out of Guan Shuqing's room, the girls crowded over immediately and asked about her caringly. I'll definitely revive her. Wang Xian took a deep breath, forced out a smile, and spoke to them. Shuqing's injuries were more severe than he had expected. The flaming long spear had penetrated her heart. If he had not arrived in time to preserve her heart with the powerful dragon energy, Shuqing might have been dead by now. Having the bloodline of the Suzaku definitely helped too. However, her conditions weren't optimistic despite all that. Wang Xian found it extremely hard to fully resuscitate her. Nonetheless, Wang Xian had the confidence that he would be able to do so given time. Brother, You've got to save sister-in-law. Xiao Yu held Wang Xian's arms and said to him, Yeah, rest assured. Wang Xian caressed Xiao Yu's head and said, This time, I've failed to protect all of you. We can't always be depending on you to protect us. Lan Xingyue looked at Wang Xian and mumbled. She had inherited the most elite bloodline in this universe and possessed the strongest Kuan breeding ability in the universe. However, due to her lack of practice and cultivation, she was quite weak. If she had cultivated diligently, she would have been able to handle a crisis like this alone. It's all my fault. If only I had cultivated diligently. Qingyue, it is I who have failed to protect all of you. Wang Xian extended his arm over her waist and spoke softly. This will never happen again. As he spoke, he looked to Sun Lingxiu and Ajaya and forced a smile. Xiao Xian, Sister Lingxiu and Sister Ajaya are really nice. It's all thanks to them that we survived this time, and we have gotten along really well. Lan Xingyue collected her emotions, held Wang Xian's arms, and spoke with a heartwarming voice. It was only through hardship that relationships are built and strengthened. For the 6 girls, they had only survived this incident by fighting with their lives on the line for one another. Ajaya, who they had resisted all along, did not take a step back. Sun Lingxiu, who had been giving silently, did not take a step back. They had truly moved Lan Xingyue and Guan Shuqing through their actions. It was a great thing to have sisters who they could go through hardships together with. Therefore, when they fought with their lives together, Lan Xingyue and Guan Shuqing had put aside some obsessions they'd held. Wang Xian was taken aback when he first heard Lan Xingyue. He smiled soon after, reached out both of his arms and held the 2 girls in his embrace. Ajaya and Sun Lingxiu stiffened up but showed a smile soon after. Hee, great. When sister-in-law Shuqing recovers, everything will be perfect. Xiao Yu was happy to see this as she wrapped her arms around her masters. Xiao Xian, where are we going? Ajaya stared at Wang Xian and asked curiously. You will know once we are there. Don't be surprised then. Ajaya turned to Wang Xian and smiled. Whoosh! At this moment, a water pillar that extended over 100 meters into the sky appeared. A humongous creature was swimming towards them. The creature in the water was roughly 50 meters in size and was swimming towards them at a terrifying speed. What's that monster? Ajaya was astonished and stared vigilantly into the sea. Don't be afraid. That's Xiao Lan. Lan Xingyue came to the deck. The Kuan, which Lan Xingyue had bred from a blue whale, surfaced from the water and revealed its humongous body. Xiao Lan had now grown to over 50 meters. Soon, it would be able to advance to level 12. Let's go. We will dive down. Wang Xian stopped the yacht, picked up Guan Shuqing, and spoke to the girls. Ajaya followed Wang Xian to the deck with curiosity and jumped into the sea soon after. As she dived into the sea and saw the majestic dragon palace, her eyes widened and she clearly couldn't believe what she was seeing. She acted just like how Xiao Yu, Lan Xingyue, and the rest had when they came here for the very first time. Her eyes widened and her mouth was slightly opened. Looking at the tall and slender Ajaya in heels and her red outfit, Wang Xian felt desire welling up inside him. Following which, he turned his head over to look at Sun Lingxiu and Lan Xingyue. He had been in Yongchang world for close to 2 months and was already finding the thirst hard to endure. If Shuqing was fine, Wang Xian would have pulled them onto the incomparably huge dragon bed. After discarding some of these thoughts, he entered the dragon palace. Wang Xian carried Guan Shuqing and walked towards where the dragon throne was. At the dragon throne, the segment of the soul-returning branch flew out of the space ring with just a thought of Wang Xian towards the progenitor tree. Countless miniature soul fruits had started growing on the soul-returning branch. Wang Xian heaved a sigh of relief as he prepared to carry Guan Shuqing towards the dragon pool. He wanted to see if the dragon blood within the dragon pool was sufficient to revive Shuqing. Screech, screech, screech. However, before Wang Xian started walking towards the dragon pool, the sound of rustling came from the progenitor tree. The next instant, a stream of fire shot towards him. Huh! Wang Xian was taken aback and turned his head instantly. This is Boundless branch. Wang Xian was taken aback and his attention was fixed fervently on the red branch of the progenitor tree. The branch emitted a red light as though there were rubies moving on it. That was the Boundless branch, a treasure Wang Xian had obtained in the Fire God Palace. At that time, the branch had penetrated his body and arrived at the Dragon Palace instantly. Wang Xian wasn't clear of the effects of the progenitor tree. However, the soul-returning tree could grow on it. Considering the terrifying soul-returning ability of the soul-returning tree, Wang Xian knew that the progenitor tree definitely wasn't something ordinary. The boundless branch that could grow on the progenitor tree would definitely be something extremely precious. The stream of fire shot towards him and landed on Guan Shuqing, who was in his embrace. The flames flowed towards the damaged area of her heart. The fiery red energy flowed into her heart instantly as though it was her blood. Wang Xian was surprised and watched in astonishment. Chapter 631. Level Up for Dragon Palace. OM. Dong. Dong. As the flame from the boundless branch entered her heart like a stream of fresh blood, Guan Shuqing's heart began to beat. Wang Xian was frozen for a moment as he was taken aback. He carried Guan Shuqing to the throne and placed her on it. This is the Boundless branch from the Fire God Palace. The Fire God's secret book mentioned that this Boundless branch was obtained by the Fire God by chance. It's amazing because it can give off fire without any energy in it. Looking at that half-meter Boundless branch on the progenitor tree, Ajaya exclaimed in disbelief. This Boundless branch is extraordinary. Wang Xian stared at it. The flame on the Boundless branch never ceased even when the branch was dead. But after appearing on the progenitor tree, this branch grew a little and became even more incredible. As the flame from the Boundless branch entered the heart of Guan Shuqing, her pale-looking face recovered slowly, and her heart beat violently. With each beat, a fiery red glow emitted at the heart location. At the same time, a drop of fresh blood streamed towards the body. What's going on now? Is it Nirvana? Or? Wang Xian was shocked as he stared at Guan Shuqing. The vitality of Shuqing seems to be multiplying. Ajaya, Lan Qingyue, and the rest were elated as they sensed the vitality within Guan Shuqing. Wang Xian and the gang kept watch for more than 10 minutes. After noticing that Guan Shuqing was all right, they heaved a sigh of relief. All of you take a rest. Shuqing might wake up in no time. As Wang Xian spoke, he walked towards the dragon pool. With a movement from the space ring, the bodies of golden swordfish and the dragonians landed on the ground. The corpses ablated into the ground at a super-fast speed. Whoosh! Streams of blood flowed out from the 9 dragon heads. The pool of blood that was collected within the dragon pool slowly formed into an oval egg. The soul-returning branch and the dragon pool could resurrect the members of Dragon Sect. But this was limited to only within Dragon Sect and Dragon Palace, as the members of Dragon Palace and Dragonians owned the blood of Wang Xian and carried the mark of Dragon Palace. The progenitor tree and Dragon Palace already recognized Wang Xian as their owner. With his blood, anyone could be resurrected using the dragon pool and soul-returning branch. However, nothing would work without Wang Xian's blood. As such, only Xiaoyu, Elder Fong, and Sunling Xiao among the 6 girls could be resurrected. Dragon King. At this time, Prime Minister Turtle, who had spotted Wang Xian earlier, swam over and greeted him when Wang Xian stopped for a rest. Hee. Upon seeing Prime Minister Turtle, Wang Xian beamed. The current Prime Minister Turtle was not a 7 meters colossal turtle. He was 7 meters tall, looked like someone in the 60s with a wisp of a beard, and had a shell behind his back. He looked just like the Prime Minister Turtle from Journey to the West on television. After going through the resurrection, he reshaped his body, and he possessed 2 forms now. Prime Minister Turtle has also advanced to the Budding Realm, which was 1 level up. Dragon King, do you want me to get the rest of the members here? Asked Prime Minister Turtle to Wang Xian. Nope. Continue with your cultivation. Wang Xian dismissed him with a wave as he headed back to his Dragon King Hall. He activated the space ring, and spiritual stones fell on the ground. Subsequently, a heap of metals that could refine spiritual equipment piled up on the side. All these spiritual stones and metals were obtained from the Yong world, while a myriad of metal could pile into a hill. Ding! 100,000 spiritual stones and a ton of spiritual grade material detected. Do you want to upgrade Dragon King Hall? Upgrade. Upon hearing the prompt from the system, radiance flashed in Wang Xian's eyes as he answered immediately. Upgrading Dragon King Hall to level 2 required 100,000 spiritual stones and a ton of spiritual grade material. After upgrading to level 2, the cultivation speed would be enhanced by 6 times. The spiritual energy within the Dragon Palace was already less dense than Yong world, but with the 6 times speed enhancement, the energy within Dragon Palace would be much thicker than Yong world. Sensing the instant boost of the surrounding energy, Wang Xian was elated. He swung his arm, bringing out 1,000 pieces of spiritual equipment, a ton of material with water properties, and 200,000 spiritual stones. Ding! 100,000 spiritual stones and a ton of water-attributed material detected. Do you want to upgrade Dragon Sect? Ding! 1,000 pieces of spiritual equipment detected. Do you want to upgrade Dragon Field? Ding! 100,000 spiritual stones detected. Do you want to upgrade Dragon Cave? Wang Xian confirmed all the notifications that came in. With every building upgraded in the Dragon Palace, the effect would be doubled. Take Dragon Field for instance. The current Dragon Field was at level 2, where members of Dragon Palace could practice and understand their attack techniques at twice the speed. This would significantly enhance their combat capacity. All the more, the Dragon Cave could boost the cultivation speed of the members by a fold. We're left with Dragon Array, Dinghai Divine Rod, and Dragon Pool not upgraded yet. Once we upgrade these 3 buildings, the Dragon Palace will be at level 2, which is maneuverable. Wang Xian pondered to himself. After upgrading the buildings, the material and spiritual equipment were almost depleted. All that was left in his space ring were elixir pills. Next, I need to enhance the cultivation and levels of Dragonians, and get some good rest in Dragon Palace. Wang Xian dived out of the water and notified Imo Qinglong and his men. Subsequently, he dragged his tired body back to the royal residence hall. Due to the stress from the fact that the 9 cauldron worlds were going to descend into the real world, Wang Xian basically did not rest in Yong world. Now, it was time to take a break. Back in his room, he already saw the girls sleeping on the bed. Perhaps they were too tired such that all of them were in a deep sleep. Wang Xian smiled as he walked to the bed and collapsed. When he woke up, he realized there was no one else except himself in the room. Wang Xian walked out with a broad smile as he spotted the girls cultivating in the dragon field. The incident had spurred them on, motivating them to cultivate themselves harder. Wang Xian visited Guan Shuqing, and everything was normal for her. He then proceeded to Dragon Field and gathered all the members of Dragon Palace. The current 9 level 12 venomous sea snakes were outstanding. One more level up, and they could evolve into serpents. They remained in their original forms without changing into humans. For the Yaksha clan, they were all burly looking. Just as the Golden Swordfish clan had their weapons in their hands, the forks were carried in their muscular hands. Apart from roving Yaksha at level 12 and 15 of them at level 11, the rest of the entire patrolling Yaksha were at level 10. Devil monkeys remained in monkey forms with no changes. Roving Heavens was at level 12 while 10 of them were at level 11. The rest had advanced to level 10. On top of that, Roving Lobster and Roving Girl had advanced to level 11. The current strength of the Dragon Palace was already compelling. However, Wang Xian was still dissatisfied, especially after witnessing the prowess of the 9 cauldron worlds. Chapter 632, Enhanced Development. Establishing an underwater dynasty and civilization. Establishing a sea region under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Palace dynasty, and the Dragon Palace would be the Emperor Palace. Wang Xian could never think of such a thing, or even dare to think that way. This was an establishment of a new kingdom, proclaiming him to be a real king. Even after Wang Xian obtained the system and set up a dragon palace, he had never thought of building an empire or a civilization as a modern person. Yet, Prime Minister Turtle suggested he established one. Wang Xian remained silent with a constant mixed expression, but the radiance in his eyes glowed brighter and brighter. Oceans occupy 70% of the Earth's surface with races existing in the underwater world. But there isn't a real civilization in the sea just like the one on Earth. We can establish the first underwater civilization, the first empire. Those who defy our wish will be exterminated, while the rest will become our subjects. Gather all the resources in the sea for the establishment of the civilization. We will take control of the myriad races in the sea. Even if we can only control a portion of them, we can still command them. The unlimited marine creatures will be our eyes, servicing us with the information that we need. Besides, we can set up our Dragon Gate. Whoever from the countless marine races that succeeds in leaping over the Dragon Gate will become our General of Dragon Sect. This could help us select and recruit talents, said Prime Minister Turtle to Wang Xian with excitement. Carry on. Wang Xian closed his eyes as he sank in his dragon throne. Currently, we only have the Devil Division, Dragon Guard Division, and over 200 anomalocaris. During wars, there are various components such as formations, infantry, cavalry, archers. I think our members should be able to perform attacks, defense, close and remote attacks, air and land strikes, and support. There was a beam of wisdom in Prime Minister Turtle's eyes. Not only this, but we also need to complement the attributes of the members in Dragon Palace. In the event that we need to conquer or deal with more powerful enemies, our formations will greatly enhance our combat capacity. Among the 9 attributes of the Divine Dragon, metal, earth, wind, thunder, and darkness are better in close-ranged fights whilst wood, water, fire, and light are good in remote fights. We can assign different roles accordingly to the members during battles. Lastly, we need to have wise civil subjects. They can be weak, but they must have strong analytical abilities and see things in a macro way. This would greatly benefit us in terms of territory management and warfare. Prime Minister Turtle slowly spoke, while Wang Xian heaved a heavy breath. Establishing a real dynasty with its own territory and officials. The benefits of establishing an underwater dynasty were huge. As for wars, he also thought about the soldiers, ranged, support, and scouts. However, it was only a vague idea that Wang Xian had in mind. Now, Prime Minister Turtle actually mentioned all these with a proper system. The establishment of an underwater dynasty is not an overnight event, Wang Xian murmured. Dragon King, we can make preparations first. At present, the Dragon Palace is the strongest within a radius of 1,000 miles. We can first unify the marine races and cultivate generals from them. Every general of the marine races could rule those lower levels beings of the same kind. Then we'll make them leap over the Dragon Gate. Those who are able to enter Dragon Palace will be groomed as the soldiers of Dragon Palace. The best thing is, we can manage our territory better and get hold of the updates within it if we had them in control, said Prime Minister Turtle to Wang Xian. Great, you'll handle this now. Get roving heavens, roving yaksha, 9 venomous sea snakes, anomalocaris, roving lobster, and roving girl over here now. Wang Xian nodded his head and commanded Prime Minister Turtle, Yes, Dragon King. I'll bring them over now. Prime Minister Turtle nodded his head. With a whiz, all of them rushed over. Dragon King. A group of level 12 members bowed to Wang Xian, who was sitting on the dragon throne. From now on, all of you shall listen to Prime Minister Turtle's commands when I'm not around. Cooperate with him, as he's our major domo from now on. Wang Xian ordered. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Heavens and the rest immediately nodded respectfully. Thank you, Dragon King. From now on, I'll be preparing to set up a team of wise civil officials, said Prime Minister Turtle, kneeling down. Sure. If you need any books, look for Imo Qinglong, and he'll get them for you. Wang Xian nodded. Yes, Dragon King. Next, Prime Minister Turtle will make plans on how to expand our territory and get more resources. I'll leave this to you. Yes, Dragon King. The rest of you keep cultivating. Now, take your leave. Yes. The so-called first court meeting ended with Prime Minister Turtle and the members taking their leave. Wang Xian chuckled as he felt more and more competent as a Dragon King. He had no worries about the development of Dragon Palace since Prime Minister Turtle was around to save him the troubles. He could also leave all the things to the Dragon Sect members who were 100% loyal to him. For the next few days, Wang Xian stayed in the Dragon Palace, waiting for the awakening of Guan Shuqing. There was no day and night at Dragon Palace. When Ajaya and the rest were tired from their cultivation, they would return to the royal residence hall and rest. Wang Xian would definitely not miss the chance for a round of lovemaking. During these few days, he was leading a relaxing life. So beautiful. After the love session, Lan Xingyue came to the door of the royal residence hall and cast her gaze outside. There was a look of surprise on her face. The sea regions within a radius of 1,000 miles have been conquered by the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian saw that the densely packed marine creatures around the Dragon Palace were looking over in their direction in awe. The number of the surrounding marine creatures was in the billions. If he could devour all these marine creatures, he could definitely gain an immense amount of dragon energy. However, doing this, it was impossible for him to level up. Besides, these marine creatures were of great use. Under the gaze of Wang Xian, these marine creatures began their challenge of Dragon Gate. Their eyes were burning with fire as their natural instinct took over. After leaping over the Dragon Gate, they would have a completely different life then. Wang Xian smiled as he watched. He may not understand how to manage a country, but he knew that these marine creatures could increase the strength of the Dragon Palace by many folds. Those who successfully leaped over the Dragon Gate were all domineering existences. Even in the universe, they could be considered as wicked ones. And that is if they continue to work hard. Dragon King, there are 30 marine creatures that leaped over the Dragon Gate this time. More than 10 hours later, Prime Minister Turtle came to report to Wang Xian after the Dragon Gate challenge was completed. Only 30 out of tens of billions, that's 1 out of 10 billion. Wang Xian shook his head. Dragon King, we have more than these billions of marine creatures in the waters near us. Those who came today were only from one of the batches. After all the marine creatures complete the challenge, I believe our strength will grow by more than 100 members. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.